it time?
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day.
We'll know in a very short period of time, but it looks like it could be something that will be not good. Believe me, not good.
I see issue with that. And again, hey.
You're not going to be able to insult your way to the presidency. That's not going to happen.
I don't know who created Pokemon Go, but I'm trying to figure out how we get them to have Pokemon go to the polls.
I'm Ted Cruz, and my pronoun is kiss my ass.
So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time in terms of what we need to do to lay these wires, what we need to do to create these jobs.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to put
Not good. Believe me, not good.
Hello, dissidents. Welcome, one and all, to a special Sunday evening edition of the Do Dissidents podcast. Keaton Weiss here with Russell Dobular, of course.
Hello.
From Leho Fuchs. There you go. Russell.
Gonna get a big dish of beef chow mein.
Big dish of beef chow mein. That's right. Russell was complimenting my shirt before we signed on, too.
Yeah, man. What is that? That's much more stylish than you usually go with.
It's a Southwestern. It's a Hawaiian with a Southwestern motif.
Very nice.
I needed a shirt that would breathe.
Nice.
A Hawaiian shirt is a beautiful thing. I really love Hawaiian
I think you should start to go with that, man.
I mean, I would love to.
That look works for you.
I would love to just have a collection of Hawaiian shirts. Like, that would be, to me, the pinnacle of success would be to afford a separate closet for a Hawaiian shirt collection.
How about you start with 3 to use on the show? How about that?
Yeah, there you go. I mean, I already have 3. So, yeah, that could work. I like that idea. Up in my neck of the woods, there's this outbreak of this rare mosquito-borne illness, the Eastern encephalitis. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking, why doesn't anyone...
Is that what you had this week?
No, that's pretty dangerous if you get it. It's like brain swelling. It's a mosquito-borne illness. And I was thinking, why hasn't anyone run for president on the promise to just eradicate the mosquito population? Just entirely. What do we need them for? They're the number one killer of humans in terms of like the deadliest creature in the world. And they don't really, I looked into this. I watched a 4-minute and 46-second YouTube video on it. So I think I'm pretty qualified to speak about this now as though I'm an expert. They don't really serve that much of a purpose. Like, a few species eat them, but like the species that eat them eat other things too, like bats, certain frogs. But they could do without them. They don't really pollinate many flowers. Obviously, bees do the heavy lifting on that. So what do we need them for? But do you know, okay, so here's a fun fact. Do you know how many mosquitoes exist in the state of Alaska alone?
How many?
Guess. Take a guess.
700 trillion.
Oh, wow, that's amazing. It is 7 trillion mosquitoes. Trillion in the state of Alaska alone. That's almost unfathomable. So it would be a tall order. Apparently what you'd have to do is we would have to create a genetically modified male mosquito that passes on a certain gene sequence.
Kind of self-destruct.
That sterilizes the offspring, yeah. And apparently if we did that, we could be rid of mosquitoes within like 40, 50 years. Now, how is that not a noble goal? Why? If they cared about our health, they would have done this already.
Because you have a lot of birds that depend on them for food.
No, I just told you. If you were paying attention, I just told you.
Didn't you say they eat them?
A couple of species eat them among other things. They could find out. Look, there's plenty of bugs out there. They could find other things to eat. Why do we have to live under threat of mosquitoes? They kill millions of people. They kill 1 million people a year. Malaria, dengue, Zika.
So you want a mosquito? Yeah, you're genocidal. You want a mosquito genocide.
Yeah, maybe I'll give our friend there a call. See what he thinks about this. Maybe he could do a 40-hour podcast series about that. Maybe he can convince the naysayers. Right?
About the mosquitoes. The most dangerous animal, though, I think is hippos, right?
Well,
don't hippos kill more people per year than any other animal?
Than any other animal, not counting a mosquito.
No, nobody
mosquitoes transmit disease.
Not counting the mosquito.
Right. Yeah.
But I mean, what we think we think of it that as an insect. But like animals, like
animals,
hippos.
it's the hippo. Yeah. Yeah, hippos are not friendly. Hippos are bad news. Yeah, for sure.
I've wanted to work as a kind of political project with Katie Halper because she shares my opinion. What do we need the sharks for? Right?
Does she?
Yeah. It just makes people very nervous when I was in Australia, we went to the aquarium and there was a lot of pro shark propaganda. They were all like, "Oh, save the sharks, save the sharks." A lot of times when you're eating fish and chips, it's shark, and they don't tell you. I was like, they should tell me. I'd pay more.
Yeah, there you go. That's an idea. But anyway, I mean, I think if they cared about our health, they would talk about how we, at the very least, rein in the mosquito, at least, internment sites for the mosquitoes. I think that's fair.
I mean, the sharks are actually needed in the ecosystem.
Yeah.
I'm joking. Don't go out and start blowing up sharks with dynamite.
Yeah. Hey, RFK is facing now an investigation over that severed whale head. Yeah, they're investigating him now.
That's continuing?
That's probably payback. That's probably payback for endorsing Trump. They'll find something on you. You endorse Trump, they'll find something on you. They'll pull a severed whale head charge out of nowhere, They'll find, just like they got Al Capone for tax evasion, they're going to get RFK for a chopped off whale head. If I meet him at Restore the Republic as a kind of in-joke, I'm going to try to give him a Fudgy the Whale. Yeah. See if he wants to split that with me. So you recommend any state roads around here for a bite to eat? Yeah. So let me ask you, what's your favorite state road around here? Where's all the best roadkill? Yeah. Looking for a place to eat. What's your favorite state highway around here? Yeah. Yeah. That might be fun. Oh, yeah. That's going to be quite a time. We'll find out if he has a sense of humor. Yeah. Folks, we got 1,200 strong in the YouTube chat to start the show. That's amazing. 1,100 in the Rumble chat to start the show. Hit that like button. Work that algorithm. Hit that subscribe button over on YouTube. Hit that follow button over on Rumble. We got Jake in the booth tonight, Field and Rumble rants. We will get to everybody in due time. But we do have some breaking news, of course, breaking as of a few hours ago. This was the latest update that we could implement into the program tonight. This was published just about an hour before airtime here. I think 5:54 p.m. here on the East Coast was the last update. Trump safe after a shooting is reported at his golf course. So, yes, the Federal Bureau of Investigation said on Sunday that it was investigating what appeared to be an attempted assassination of former President Donald J. Trump as he played golf at one of his clubs in Florida. Officials said Mr. Trump was safe. Just 2 months ago, he was wounded in an assassination attempt during a rally in Butler, Pennsylvania. Mr. Trump was golfing at the Trump International Golf Course, West Palm Beach, when the incident unfolded at around 1:30 p.m. on Sunday, Sheriff Rick Bradshaw of Palm Beach County said at a news briefing. A Secret Service agent saw an armed man hiding in the shrubbery surrounding the golf course, according to Sheriff Bradshaw. The Secret Service fired at the man, said Rafael Barros, the special agent in charge of the Secret Service's Miami field office. It was not immediately clear if the suspect had fired any shots. Mr. Trump was 1 or 2 holes away from the Secret Service on the course and perhaps 400 yards away from the armed man, Sheriff Bradshaw said. Now, this contrasted with, I believe, 160 yards was the distance between Trump and the shooter in Pennsylvania? It was under 200. So this was significantly further away. An AK-47 style rifle with a scope was found near the property line, along with a video camera, the sheriff added. President Trump is safe following gunshots in his vicinity, Stephen Chung, the Trump campaign's comms director, said in a statement. A witness saw the suspect flee from the bushes to a black Nissan. The witness took a photo of the car and shared it with law enforcement officials. The suspect was stopped driving northbound on I-95 after crossing into Martin County. Law enforcement officials are running a trace to determine who bought the gun and where it was sold, according to 2 officials with knowledge of the situation. Mr. Trump was golfing with his friend Steve Witkoff, a New York real estate investor, on the course when the shots were fired at the course, according to 3 people briefed on the matter. Mr. Trump later returned to Mar-a-Lago, his Palm Beach estate. So this was not at Mar-a-Lago. This was at the golf course. Vice President Kamala Harris said on social media that she has been briefed on the incident. I am glad he is safe, she wrote. Violence has no place in America. In a statement, a White House official said President Biden had also been briefed along with Ms. Harris. They are relieved to know that he is safe, the official said. Senator Lindsey Graham, a South Carolina Republican, posted on social media that he had spoken with Mr. Trump and he was, quote, in good spirit. So that is the entirety of that article. We did not edit it. We did not cut it for length. We just wanted to give you as thorough an update as we can. There's not much to say in response to that at the moment, except the suspect is apparently alive and has been detained. So, you know, that is a rarity when these things happen. Do you actually get to find out who the person was really and what they were about really? Because now they are around to talk. And so, you know, we could speculate. It's really, I don't think the time or the place to speculate right now. But we did want to give you that update. Do you have anything?
Yeah, usually these guys decide to go out in a blaze of glory.
Right, exactly.
You'll never take me alive, coppers.
Right.
Yeah, hey, he is right about why this is happening to him, and he said it on the debate stage. When you make somebody out to be the greatest threat to democracy since Hitler, and you say that his administration will be the end of democracy. When I was interviewing,
I mean, let's not exaggerate. I mean, on the Hitler side.
When I was, let's move on.
I know. I'm messing. Last time.
Okay, so when I went to the Pod Save America people, when I started asking them about whether some people feel it would be better to have Trump in there and then get somebody better next time. Oh, that's cute. They think there's going to be another election. So, when you put that in people's head, what do you expect?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that is all we can responsibly say for now. I mean, this broke a couple hours before we went on. We gave you the latest. Maybe we'll check again for another update on the intermission because we are on Rumble tonight for the Q&A. So we'll have a 5-minute break. Maybe we'll see if anything breaks at that point. Maybe we'll break some more news on the Rumble side in a couple hours. But we did think it was important to at least make mention of that, right? Okay, let's take a couple of Rumble rants and super chats here. Jake took off one Rumble rant that I had saved from the last show. It's not your fault, Jake. I kept that there because it came in after we went off the air. But I remember what it is. This is what a pro I am. It was from My Real Name, and he asked what the tour dates were for Russell's walking tour.
Right.
And in fact, why don't we put that up now? Russell, do you want to just throw that link up, or Jake, can you throw that link up? Just go to dudissidents.com/tour. Can we display that? I'll put this up. Could you just show us the page, Jake, as a screen share, if you don't mind? Thank you. Sorry, I should have run that by you before we started. That was my fault. But yes, the tour dates for Russell's walking tour, the Weird Tour of New York, are October 25th and October 26th. That's a Friday and a Saturday night at 7 p.m. Eastern. How are ticket sales going? They're going pretty good. I see we've been getting a decent number.
Very good. It's more than half sold out for Saturday. What do we have left? We have 23 tickets left for Friday, and I think it's like 13 left for Saturday.
Okay, cool.
So if you do want to come, sign up. It is very limited because we want it to be a good experience with this kind of tour. 30 is the max. Any more than that, it's really it's too crowded. It's hard to get people attention. So it's going to be a very small tour, dealing with some of the weirdest, strangest, ugliest history in New York, from G.G. Allen to the site of the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire to a very infamous MK Ultra experiment safe house, all the way to Weather Underground bombing site. So that's going to cover everything that our audience would want to see in New York. And I can point out my favorite pizza place because I passed that on the way.
That's right.
The place with the Nona slice is right by where this tour ends.
I mean, you might have to allow a 15-minute break for anybody who wants a slice.
Well, we're going to end right by there.
Oh, there you go. All right, so that's a good idea. All right, yeah, we ended our ghost tours at the Death House. I don't know where you're ending yours, but
No,
you will
no,
find out.
I end at the MK Ultra house.
Oh, okay. All right, got it. Got it. Conda Strike, thanks for the $2. Man, I've been looking forward to this. Thank you, DD. Well, thanks for being here, Conda Strike.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
that. That's very nice of you. The Vanguard Van. I like that screen name. The boys raised all that money to fix me. It was going to be my day in the spotlight. Instead, you're here watching us. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Very funny.
Ken Texican. I know the truth bomb's going to be dropping all night long, so I'll ring the bell early for two of my favorite truth tellers. Thanks, gents. Well, thank you. Let's ring the cowbell for Ken Texican. That is very kind of you, my friend. Appreciate that. Okay, let's go to the YouTube side here. Michael Castillo for $100. Let's keep that cowbell out and ring it for Michael. Thank you, Michael, very much. Good evening, gentlemen. He says, I will have to catch the show tomorrow. I have an engagement with a lady friend over dinner. Well, congratulations, my friend. And thank you very much for that super chat. Hope you got plenty of money left to give your lady friend a fun time. And hope it all goes good. Eric Hosso, thanks for the $2. The deep state really wants Teflon Don unalived. Yeah, seems that way. Now we're going to see what that's all about because the guy's alive. Salamander Fry, thanks for the $10. Hey, you guys are all right. Thank you, Salamander Fry. You're all right, too. JM, thanks for the thumbs up and the $2. And Kuznetsky Bassane, donate to DD early and often, and I am a shark hugger. Thank you, Kuznetsky Bassane, for the $4.99. Appreciate that. And thank you, Brian Shelburne.
Oh, look,
for the
Jesse,
$1.99.
she put the link in the chat.
Who put the link in the chat?
Jesse did.
Oh, cool. Nice. Thank you, Jesse.
Thank you, Jesse.
That's a good mod right there. We have the best people. We have the best people.
Everybody sang it.
Everybody says it. That's right. Everybody knows it. Okay. We have a Boeing story that's a little different in nature from most of the Boeing stories. So, Russell, here, let's take this away.
Yeah, this isn't a Boeing crashing story, but we should probably still give it its customary sound cue.
I'm leaving on a jet plane.
That's right. It's still in the category.
Oh, in the Boeing category. All right. So, hey, man, some good news at Boeing. Union labor power. Workers at Boeing have launched a massive strike. 33,000 machinists walking off the job demanding better wages and an end to the aerospace giant's wanton violation of safety standards for its own profit. You got that video, Keaton?
Yep, here it is.
Strike! 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 Strike!
You love to see it. Friday the 13th mask and all. That'll fucking scare the shit out of them. We better give these guys a raise. Sure, you guys gonna come at us with a machete next. Boeing workers vote overwhelmingly. See, that's what's great about COVID. You could dress up as Jason and be like, "It's COVID. I'm protecting myself and others."
I used to take advantage of those masks so often, man. When someone would cut me off with a shopping cart, I would just under my breath, "You fucking bitch." And then, when we didn't have to wear them anymore, first couple times I got sloppy. I started like cursing people out under my breath, not remembering, hey, your mouth is visible. They could read your lips and they could kind of hear you now. So I
never stopped doing that or started because of masks. It's just my personality. Boeing workers vote overwhelmingly to strike in defeat for troubled company. But hey, they did get the Starliner back in one piece. I was calling that 50-50. Thousands of Boeing workers walked off the job Friday after resoundingly rejecting management's contract offer, shutting down airliner production, and threatening further damage to the aerospace giant as it struggles to overcome financial and safety problems. Members of the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers, District 751, expressed more than a decade's worth of pent-up anger, as 96% of those casting ballots voted in favor of the strike, far more than the two-thirds needed. It's the first strike by Boeing machinists since 2008. The strike risks derailing Boeing's recovery from a series of legal and regulatory crises and could cost the cash-strapped company an estimated $1 billion per week, according to analysts. Union members play key roles in assembling some of the company's best-selling aircraft. Already, the company is being threatened with a downgrade of its credit rating. Yeah, man. That was the short of the century. You needed to short Boeing like 4 years ago. The most direct impact is on Boeing's assembly plants in Washington, especially in Everett and Renton. An extended work stoppage could also impact Boeing suppliers and possibly shrink its share of the aerospace market. However, less than 24 hours into the strike, there appeared to be signs of progress. On Friday evening, the Federal Mediation and Conciliation Service, an independent federal agency created by Congress to resolve conflict between employers and unions across industries, announced the two sides agreed to resume meetings next week with the help of a federal mediator. Earlier on Friday, in remarks at an analyst conference, Brian West, Boeing's chief financial officer, said the company is eager to return to the negotiating table, adding that new chief executive Kelly Ortberg, who spent time talking to workers on the factory floor this week, is working with his team to come up with a new offer. By the way, they had a very hard time finding a CEO that wanted this job because they know what kind of shitstorm they were walking into. West called the deal that members rejected unprecedented while acknowledging it fell short. The tentative contract would have included a 25% raise and improved health care and retirement benefits. Quote, over the last few days, it became very clear, loud and clear, that the offer didn't meet the mark and it was not acceptable, he said. Union members said they have been frustrated for years with Boeing's tactics, including threats to move airliner production out of the region. Quote, I think this 96% spoke very loudly about what the workers want and what they're not going to settle for, said Julie Dye, a 17-year Boeing employee who wore a shirt from the 2008 strike as she stood on a street corner near the company's Renton factory, carrying a picket sign. Good for her. For Robert Nesseth, a 36-year-old Boeing employee who's been on strike 5 times and temporarily lives in a nearby RV park while away from his family in Washington, said the cancellation of his pension translates to more than $1,000 less a month in benefits once he stops working. Quote, our main thing is that over the last 15, 20 years, we've made a lot of concessions to the company because times were tough, Nesseth said. What Boeing is offering doesn't let us catch up at all. The company really underestimates how much employees are tired of being used and abused. And also, people keep turning up in, dead and garbage bins. Nobody knows why. Very strange. After a string of tense marathon negotiating sessions over the past several weeks, the IAM and Boeing announced Sunday that they had reached a tentative 4-year agreement. In a key provision, Boeing would commit to building its next new aircraft in Washington State, a major union demand. Under the agreement, the average pay for machinists would have risen from $75,608 to $106,350 per year without overtime, according to the company. But workers said the offer failed to take into account the high cost of living in the Seattle region and the years that employees had gone without significant raises. Quote, 4 years is not enough to make up for the last 16, Boeing worker Roger Legrano said before he voted. He said he was voting to strike in part to give union members more time to understand a deal. The IAM strike in 2008, a 57-day walkout, cost Boeing about $1.5 billion a month, according to Moody's. quite a difference. Now they're saying $1 billion a week. Boeing has struggled to recover from major safety, financial, and legal setbacks that began in January when a door panel of a 737 MAX jet blew out of a fuselage in midair, leaving a gaping hole. Multiple investigations into the calamity uncovered serious shortcomings in the company's manufacturing and safety oversight systems and led the FAA to limit the number of 737 MAX jets Boeing could build until it meets certain quality and safety milestones. Ortberg, the former chief executive of Rockwell Collins, took over the top job last month, pledging a new beginning. All right, so this is a great example of workers exerting the power that they actually have. They are costing this company $1 billion a week, so they got to do this math. How much is it costing us not to have a contract with the workers? You know, more and more, and I'm sure we'll get into this more over the course of the night with some of the things we're covering. But more and more, I'm definitely coming to no war but class war. Like, people seem to keep trying to figure out what should the left core philosophy be. That's it. That's it. It's clear, it's concise, it's unifying. That's it. No war but class war. That is it. That is the only way that working people have a chance of taking their power back from the people who stole it from them.
Yeah, and you know, one of the other things this exposes is just yet another screw job in this country, because you know, if you read Chris Hedges' America the Farewell Tour, he writes about this as a lamentable dynamic, which of course it is, but you see politicians talk about this openly now. I mean, you see major politicians from both parties brag that basically the military industrial complex provides us a manufacturing base. It gives us one of the few manufacturing bases that we have left. And so one of the selling points...
Blitzer said that in the middle of a segment.
Of course, right. And so one of the selling points for companies, you know, like Boeing and Lockheed Martin and Raytheon, you know, to exist is that, hey, they provide American jobs, right? American workers get a good deal out of these entities for all the havoc that they have wrought around the world. Hey, you know, it's American jobs. Well, apparently they don't treat their workers very well, right? Apparently it's not as sweet a deal for the American worker as they claim it is, for all the evil that is done around the world. But yes, absolutely. Look, obviously I've been more on this. I mean, I've always been on this page, but I've come to the conclusion, you know, in recent weeks and months, that really the thing to organize around is a mass labor action, just a coordinated, broad-based labor action, because that to me feels like the only thing that is going to exert enough pressure on the system to force change through a political system that is just unresponsive to any other kind of democratic input. I mean, I think that's obvious.
Exactly. You have to, just like Israel, you have to hit them where they live. Money. Right. You have to bring the wheels of the economy grinding to a halt. That is what they will respond to, and that is what our forefathers did in the labor movement. That is what our grandfathers and great-grandfathers did. They shut it down. And it wasn't easy. It was a lot of back and forth and strike breakers and Pinkertons and, you know, a lot of unrest to get the great middle-class society that you had for a while in the post-war period that has gradually been eroded and taken back. Seeing these kinds of strike actions, which are becoming more frequent, people are always asking, well, what should we do? That's what we should do. And that is, if there's any worthwhile project, that's what's great about Shama's organization. Workers Strike Back. That, yes, exactly. That is what any left movement has to be oriented around. You know, we'll get into this later. We're going to cover I Am Racist. But
am I racist?
I am. Never calling it I Am Racist from now on. Keaton wanted me to go to the ticket booth and film asking for one ticket for I am racist.
One for I'm a racist. Can I get one for I'm a racist?
One for I am a racist, which I did not do, by the way.
Right.
Yeah, man. I'm coming around more to seeing the point of view that some people have had in the left space, that these culture wars are designed to distract. And I've always taken the attitude, yeah, but that's what makes them a good trap, because if you don't address them, they hit you with them. And that's true as far as it goes. But in the end, actions speak louder than words. If you're only organizing around economics, people are going to see that's what you're about. It's probably the best way to show that's what you're about and avoid that whole trap.
Well, that certainly comes as music to my ears. But yes, I mean, I've felt that way for a long time. And
well, hang on. My 45-hour series on the Acolyte is still coming.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah, look, I mean, I agree with that 100%. I mean, I think you organize along class lines, and then, those other debates are debates you can have in a civil way within the movement. But if you use those as wedge issues to divide workers before they even get started on the job of organizing, then you never get past square one. Right?
That's it. Somebody comes to you with some crazy gender shit. What you got to say is, hey, man, you want to go on strike?
Yeah, that's it.
You do you.
Yeah, that's it.
I'll do me. Let's go on strike.
That's it. And, without getting into specifics, but I think between the douchebag dialogues and this other, thing that happened recently, I would hope it would, and I've noticed this pattern. A lot of the people who make hay out of those culture issues are people who, at the end of the day, will show their ass in big moments like that, right? It shows you where they're really coming from, right? Exactly. It shows you like the anti-woke left or whatever. It's a very, very small subset of people who will actually put themselves out there for that, because politics gets very tribal, especially in an election year where most political energy, the vast majority of political energy, gets funneled to either Kamala Harris or Donald Trump, which means you're going to find something to hate about almost everybody, because between the two of them, they're going to get what? Right. I don't know, 150 to 200 million votes, depending on turnout, whatever. Right. So if you go looking for things to dislike about people, take it from me, folks. You'll find them in spades.
All right.
It's important to, put the class war first. That's it. That's all.
This election really is Idiocracy versus the Hunger Games. There's just no. I don't think, and this is saying something, because it's not like we've had good choices in a while. This is really the Scylla and Charybdis election. There's just what can you advocate for in either direction? You got clowns to the left of me, jokers to my right. It's just creepy weirdos on all sides calling each other creepy weirdos. It's just, which flavor of creepy weirdo do you think you want to live with? To which we answer neither. We're not going for either. But wow. Like I don't think I've ever seen a situation where more and more, as the Trump campaign evolves, you gotta say, it's just who would you vote for? Fortunately, I have Dave Chappelle.
There you go. You always have Dave Chappelle.
I always have Dave Chappelle to fall back on.
One more point on the culture war, class war thing. When I was part of a telethon fundraiser for Shama back in May 2021, when she was being recalled, we had a couple of meetings with her team, and then we did, like a 5 or 6 hour, all-nighter where we took donations over the phone and stuff like that. And her team was, they were committed socialists. But there was a lot. I mean, they were Trotskyists, at the time, and so look, there were a lot of people there who you would, if you put culture first, would very easily push them away. Like the chief organizer was, non-binary, and then there was this one guy. I remember, I won't say his name because I don't want to be mean to him. He's a very nice guy, and it turns out to be a very smart guy. He looked like a literal clown, like a birthday clown that you would hire. the way he presented himself. Curly purple hair, like weird makeup on. But this fucking guy was sharp as hell. And as the results of the recall were coming in, he's tweeting out, we won. And it didn't look like they had won. It looked like they had lost. But he said, no, they needed to keep us under 45% in the early vote because we're going to make up X a number of points in the I'm sorry, they needed to get to 40. They needed to keep us under 45% in the same day vote because we're going to make up X amount of points in the early vote once it comes in. And we're at 47. They needed us at 45, which means we're absolutely going to win. No question about it. Everybody else is tweeting at him, what are you, crazy? It looks like we lost. This is terrible. He says, nope, trust me. I promise you we won. Sure enough, they won. He had it exactly right. This guy was on top of his shit. And, so look, it takes a village. Whoever wants to be there to fight for the minimum wage, to fight for tenants' rights, whatever. Well,
I told you, when I went to Grand Central, that was, I think, the first or second time we ever did on the street reporting to cover the railroad workers were having a protest. And the older, experienced organizers, when you had like the young women from the teachers union wanting to get up there and go, and trans rights are human rights, are like, okay, they would shut that shit down right away. They did not want that out there. They wanted to talk about economics. They wanted to talk about labor. They wanted to talk about unions and workers' rights and Joe Biden and how they were getting fucked. And that was it. Any of the younger ones, it was usually the younger ones from the teachers union, from the CUNY union, who would start getting into that. And the older guys who were from the railroad union, immediately they would shut that down as quickly as they could. Because they understand they're serious people. They're veteran labor organizers. They understand that doesn't bring us closer to our goal. That doesn't help us. All that does is divide people, get people at each other's throats. Because you know what? At the end of the day, if you just make it about wages, nobody cared. There were trans people there. Nobody said anything. Nobody was like, what are you doing here? Nobody's going to care.
No, of course.
Unless you shove that shit in their face and ask them to take a position on it. Leave people the fuck alone. Just make it about the common cause. That's it. Forget about all the rest of it. You do you. Live and let live. Americans, in spite of what you might have heard, are very inclined towards a laissez-faire libertarian attitude about other people's sex lives and social lives and personal choices. It's a small minority of very vocal, loud people on both sides who don't just want to live and let live. If you just leave people alone, most of them will leave you alone.
Yes. Agreed. Absolutely. Here we go. All right. We got a great crowd in here tonight. Yeah, absolutely. Folks, we want to tell you about our friend Dan Richmond's show. It's called Heeb and Goy. It is a YouTube show. It's a terrific audio podcast and YouTube program. So if you want a break from politics and want a show filled with just sort of benign everyday humor by two very funny guys, Dan Richmond, our friend and patron, he is the Heeb. And then obviously his Goy partner is very funny as well. And the sensibility and sense of humor of the show is really reflected in the logo there. The Hebrew national hot dog for the Heeb and then the mayonnaise font for the Goy. A very clever program that is available on YouTube. You can also go to heebandgoy.com to get their RSS feed. So listen on an audio podcast, but put it in the YouTube search, heebandgoy.com. You will have a fun time with our pal Dan. It's a great show, and we encourage you all to check that out. All right. We will move on to our third segment of the night in just a moment, but let's take some more super chats and rumble rants. Steve McNelly, we've got these mozzies where I come from in Queensland that you can hear coming from 100 meters away. I am 100% on board for mosquito genocide. Vampirist fucks. There you go. Hey, look at that. I like that. Yeah, well, in Australia, I mean, the cool thing about Australia is you can at least see them coming because, everything in Australia is huge. Those creatures down there, what makes them...
Not everything, man. A lot of poisonous spiders.
Oh, that's right. The spiders too. Yeah.
And
Lots to
there
deal
are
with.
like really small snakes that are deadly, like
Ooh.
little tiny snakes that if they bite, you're
Yes.
dead.
Yeah, I couldn't handle that. I couldn't deal with that. That would
Yeah.
just ruin. I mean, how do you
I
enjoy being outside at that point?
am planning on going to Uluru as a side trip from China because my ex-wife is there. So we're going to take a road trip. But it's the winter. So I'm figuring probably there's not as much of that kind of, those snakes are probably in hibernation, I'm hoping. That's my theory.
You would think so, right? Because you're going next summer, which is the winter, right?
Well, that's when they say to go to Uluru because
Right,
it's
'cause
like
it's-
baking hot otherwise.
Oh yeah, I bet. Okay, Blanco SoCal, thanks for the $10. It's like they want Trump to win so they can spend the next 4 years telling you to shut up about your needs because the most important thing is to argue about and pay attention to his every move. Thank you, Blanco SoCal. Kevin Dorr, thanks for the $5. Yes, like all the info we have about the Hammer guy and Nancy P. husband, they will black hole this guy like all the others. Yeah, we'll see what happens. Criminy, thanks for the $5. My militia commander says I haven't paid my due yet, but I have all my receipts. Thank you. American Disaster, thanks for the $2. I'll pass on G.G. Allen. Dude was gross and an ice hole. Thank you.
Yeah, but
American Disaster.
I tell a great story about him.
There
I
you
tell
go.
a great story about him playing the Skirball Center at NYU.
Have I heard that story?
Probably not. I mean, I don't want to give it away, but let's put it this way. It was pre-internet. So
Right.
NYU was doing their, college bookings. You just book bands and comedians. And back then, there was no way to really look it up, and they didn't ask around. And if you know anything about G.G. Allen's act, you can imagine how that went. It's a pretty good story.
Eric Rousseau, the Breakfast Club convinced me to vote for Jill Stein. I'm also voting for Garvey because I despise Shifty Schiff. That's right. You're in LA. I always think you're from Long Island, Eric Rousseau. Why do I always get that confused? It's because you're from some beach, right? You're from a beach that sounds like it could be a Long Island beach. That's why. Because they got beaches in Long Island. They got beaches in LA. Kenman G, another Trump assassination attempt at golf course. Yep, we were on that. Thank you, Kenman. Pablo Diablo, I like that name. I remember the days of DDT, Mosquito's worst enemy, but apparently not so good for us either. Pablo Diablo. Thank you, Pablo. Appreciate that.
Well, when we were getting Zika, they were doing like mass spraying in New York. I don't know what they use now. I guess they don't use DDT anymore.
When I was a kid, I used to get bitten by mosquitoes all the time. They loved me. They could not get enough of me when I was a kid. And now, not so much anymore. I don't know. Maybe I've soured over time to all species. That's possible.
Including the human one.
There you go. Kenman G, Daryl Cooper's like the Nazi Sam Harris, a whispery charlatan prophet. Thank you, Kenman G. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Pablo Diablo, loving the shirt, Keaton. Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker. Thank you, Pablo. Appreciate that very much. It's good. I would encourage you guys like these shirts because, I would wear more Hawaiians if they were more acceptable, but I really feel strongly.
I think the way the printed shirts are my trademark, you should go with the Hawaiian shirts.
The Hawaiians every show.
Yeah.
Well, it's getting to be hoodie season. I got some good hoodies too. I could sport a hoodie.
Yeah, what's the matter? You're not doing the show in the fucking backyard.
Yeah, that's right. Yes. BJG fighting the good fight on X. She's even flipped the script, accusing Breakfast Club of being bougie PMCs. That's what, of course. Why was I not?
Yeah, I've seen that, man.
Breakfast
She's
Club?
been
Yes.
she's been dropping some good bombs there. I think I retweeted something of hers the other day.
Oh, you did?
I think so. Maybe.
I didn't know company policy allowed for that yet.
I might have just liked it.
Yeah.
I might have just liked it. Do we have a mod in Rumble? We have a live one over there with the all cap fucking nonsense.
Oh, okay. Yep, there's a mod over there. It's funny, Amanda texted me, you have a lunatic in the Rumble chat. I didn't even know she watches this show.
I don't know why.
I don't know why she would.
She sees enough of you.
Yeah, exactly.
She's got to fucking see you in triplicate and these freaking faces of these kids.
Yeah. knows all of my opinions already. And yeah, she sees me all day with all the kids there too. That's right. Glad your sound loads better, Keaton. I remember pelargonium to ward off colds and flu. Loads better than echinacea. And you look less furious. Was probably just the illness making you look fuming. Did I look mad last time? Do I look more at peace this time? I'm trying to talk a little softer into the microphone just so I don't blow my voice out because I'm not 100% better yet. But thank you for the compliment. Appreciate that. The Vanguard fan drove him to Kyle's wedding, but Marianne Williamson wouldn't let me in. She stuck me in the garage during the ceremony, but joke's on her. I practice voodoo. Thank you, Vanguard fan. Appreciate that very much. Okay. Why don't we get to segment number 3? Alrighty, folks. The Pope weighed in on election 2024. That's right. Pope Francis has an opinion that he wants to get out there about the two candidates. And I don't know, man. I have a lot in common with the Pope in this respect. Not in most respects, but in this one, I can sign for what he says here.
Sono contro la vita, sia quello che butta via I migranti, sia quello che uccide I bambini.
Okay, well, it's not to nitpick there, but they both throw out migrants and they both kill children. So that's, I mean, I understand you're trying to do a both sides there, but actually it's even worse than you think. What do you call a pope? Father? He's father, right? Is he chief father? Father Francis?
Patriarch? No, that's the Greek Orthodox.
Yeah, I think he's father. I mean, you call a priest father, right?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, he's the number one priest.
The
Holy Father. The Holy Father.
The Holy Father. The Holy Father. So the Holy Father should know that actually.
All right, Catholics in the chat. What do you guys call the Pope? You call him the Holy Father, right? Right?
I think
Eminence. Yeah, it's the Holy Father, I think.
All right, we'll start this over.
Ambedue sono
Yeah, Holy
contro la
Father.
vita,
Holy Father. Yeah.
sia quello che butta via I migranti, sia quello che uccide I bambini. Nella morale politica, in genere si dice che non votare è brutto, non è buono, si deve votare e si deve scegliere il male minore.
Lesser evil.
Chi è
Oh,
il
you
male
had me.
minore?
You had me until
Quella
there,
signora
Holy Father.
o quel signore? Non so, ognuno in
That I
coscienza
agree with.
pensi e fa.
I love that. Who was the lesser evil? That woman? That man? I don't know.
Chi è il male minore? Quella signora o quel signore? Non so, ognuno.
Okay, we have to memorize how to say that in Italian.
I mean, it's very
Chi
close
è
to a
male
lot.
Quella
minore?
signora o quel signore? Non so,
What's that?
No, it's close to Spanish.
Chi è male minore? Did I say it right? Who is the lesser evil? Chi è male minore?
Yeah, it would be in Spanish. It would be que menos, que es menos.
All right. Chi è male minore? I like that. That's how I'm gonna. That's gonna be my catchphrase.
And it's no say in Spanish. It would be he says no so in Spanish. It would be no say. I don't know.
Ah, okay.
chi è il male minore? Quella signora o quel signore? Non so, ognuno in coscienza pensi e faccia questo.
There you go. So Jake, for some reason your slideshow didn't load properly this time. I don't know. It was probably just a glitch. It's not your fault. Don't worry about it. But an estimated 52 million Americans, so that's 1 in 5 Americans, identify as Catholic. And according to Pew Research, 28% of those Catholics attend Mass on a weekly basis. So that's what, about 10 to 15 million people attend Mass every week. And the Catholic vote was always obviously heavily Democratic, but that's not true in recent years. So
all right, so hang on. We got quien es menos mal would be the Spanish, and somebody put in here the Italian. Hang on.
All right. Well, let me just get through the rest of this. So in 2020, the Catholic vote was pretty much split exactly, despite the fact that Joe Biden is only the second Catholic president ever. Biden won 50 to 49, so that's essentially a split vote. In 2022, Catholics voted 56 to 43 in favor of the Republicans. So, it was a Republican year, not as much as people thought it was going to be. But the Catholic vote used to be a heavily Democratic vote. Now it's essentially split 50-50. And he seems to reflect that here, saying, who's the lesser evil? I don't know. They're both against life. I thought that was a very interesting turn of phrase, because obviously in this address, didn't make the video, but he did go on to say abortion is still murder. We're still anti-abortion, but that's not what he's talking about in the context here, because he's saying they are both against life, saying, one of them mistreats migrants, obviously. And then what was the other one there? And one kills children. Yeah, that's a pretty damning indictment. Now, of course, the one that kills children, I'm assuming you're talking about abortion there. And yes, on the Republican side, you're talking about migrants. But don't forget, this is not what he was referencing in this speech, but he has called the Gaza genocide terrorism. I mean, he has condemned that pretty loudly, and both candidates support that. So a little bit of wisdom from Pope Francis there, who, one of the more based popes in recent memory.
He is. What really struck me listening to that and reading that, okay, I mean, actually, I guess I can assume what his views are on whether the state should regulate abortion. So I'm going to assume we have a difference on that. He's not simply talking about the mortal sin of it, but it's up to you. I assume if he could wave a magic wand, it would be illegal. So I don't agree with him on that. But it's the eternal dilemma for secular humanists. The moral clarity that being a religious person gives you, it seems so much easier. Like you almost wish that you could have that kind of absolute guidance, because when you're secular, everything's negotiable, right? Like everything's a negotiation, everything's a debate, everything's a philosophical examination. I mean, there's existentialism, really, it's the need to create your own meanings and your own morals and your own precepts, and to take complete responsibility for all of that. I would say that idea has become very prevalent in our society, and we have a tendency to kick religion because we're in a secular age. But have we arrived at a superior morality in its absence? As I said, I don't agree with at least one side of what he's saying there. But the clarity of, if you throw out migrants, you're no Christian, which was also something he was quoted as saying in the article.
Right.
There's no debate, no nothing, right? Jesus and the whole New Testament, Mary and Joseph were strangers, right, who needed a place to stay. So there's this ethos of, well, you must take people in. We just don't, if you're a secular humanist, or if you have a kind of vague quasi, I believe in God but not a religion, which probably where I am, that doesn't give you that. It doesn't give you that. Everything is something you have to really think about.
Yeah, and the thing I was a little surprised that he said was, you have to vote, so you just vote for the lesser evil. Because you would think, if you're coming at this from this like purely moral perspective, you would say that the option to not participate is on the table. No? Like, why would you tell people you have to vote for the lesser evil, right? That seems to be, what's the phrase? Render unto God what is God, unto Caesar what is Caesar, right?
Right.
That seems to be telling people that, hey, it's okay to make some kind of moral compromise, right? Which is why he says picking the lesser evil, which in this context I obviously don't agree with. But I think it's pretty remarkable that in this context he is willing to say he doesn't know who the lesser evil is, because you would think, based on the abortion issue and their stance on that lesser evil, he would always pick the pro-life side. But he obviously, and this is consistent with past statements that this Pope has made. He obviously sees it as more nuanced than that.
There's a she's a Jewish lady. Her name is Jill Stein. Maybe you want to vote for Jill Stein.
Jill Stein. Yeah. Yeah, that would be fun. That would be good. That'd be a good endorsement. Remember in 2016 when Bernie made some weird trip to the Vatican like days before the New York primary, and people were wondering if the Pope was going to endorse him? He didn't. He made some weird trip out of the country.
I don't even remember this.
Yeah. Yep. He was out of the country for like a few days, which was a weird choice because it was right before the New York primary. So you'd think he'd want to like maximize his presence on the ground, but he took a trip over there for a few days to speak at some event or something like that. But that was obviously same Pope. Okay. Why don't we move on here? Hey, here's a fun ad read we could do for a walnut cutting board. I read about this. All right, so I'm a cook. I do these cooking videos. I could do this. I could kill this. I think I could kill this ad. All right. So let's talk about Virginia Boys Kitchens here. We'll dive into something that's really exciting. So as you know, we're all about quality, durability, and supporting American-made products here. And today I've got something to share with you, something that will not only align with your Made in America values, but also helps you in your kitchen. Talking about premium 100% American-made wood cutting boards. That's right. These beauties are crafted right here in the USA, ensuring you get top-notch quality while supporting local craftsmanship. So if you're like me and you love to cook and you love to cook stuff that you have to cut up like a good steak or you cook frequently, you know how crucial a good cutting board is, and that's true because the plastic cutting boards can be a real pain. They're prone to scratches. They harbor bacteria. They peel apart when you go to wash them. They get slick and slippery. And let's be honest, they just don't have that.
Freebase on them.
That's right. Yes. And let's be honest, they just don't have that classic solid feel. Now imagine upgrading to a stunning wood cutting board. It's not just about looks, though. These boards do look fantastic. Wood is naturally more hygienic. It's gentler on your knives. That's right. And it ages beautifully over time. Plus, there's something undeniably satisfying about the way a wood board feels and performs. And here's the best part. For our Rumble viewers, we've got an exclusive offer just for you. So use the coupon code RUMBLE20 at checkout to save 20% on your first cutting board. It's a great way to make the switch from those old harmful plastic boards to something truly special and made right here in the USA. That's Virginia Boys Kitchens. RUMBLE20 is the coupon code.
No cats were injured in the making of these cutting boards.
Yes, that's right. Order today. Matt Walsh's wife will sign one for you. Yeah. Yeah. And send it to you. It's true, though, man. Now I have 3 cutting boards. And I ask for a cutting board every few years for Christmas because it is true. You do need a good one. You do need a good one. Otherwise, they'll break apart.
I have a good one. I've had it for a long... Oh, I don't use plastic. I have a wood one.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've had it for years. It's fine.
Yeah.
Right. The cutting board I probably had for like, I don't know, 8 years or so.
Oh, that's a good one. I once dropped a cutting board on my foot and I had to go to the hospital to get like stitched up. It was really bad. It like busted my foot open, my toe. That hurts. So don't drop this one on your toe, folks, but make sure
I hate when that happens.
Yeah. Hate when that happens. All right, let's go to some super chats here. Queensboro Figs for $10. Thank you. Says F Taylor Swift. All of her music sounds the same. 34-year-old still singing teeny bopper music. She's no Joan Baez, Joni Mitchell, or Mary Travers. That's true. Thank you, Queensboro Figs. Peter Monahan, thanks for the $20, Peter. Hope all is well. Been waiting for this all weekend. What a great way to start a week. I've got a full solid week of 22 appointments getting me ready for my surgery. Keep it up, guys. I love it, and you keep me inspired. Shoulders back, chest up, send it. Thank you, Peter. God bless. And send us an email. Let us know where we can send you a care package or something, man. For real, send us an email. You have it. We've been in touch back and forth. Okay, what happened here? Okay, Britsman, thanks for the $1.99. Forget sharks. Let's unalive all the jellyfish mojos. Yeah, that's what we should do. We should have a summit as to which species we want to wipe out. Which animal species are more trouble than they're worth.
The human race is not wiped out yet that we think should be on the chopping block. Somebody from Australia said the snakes that kill you are big, but don't you guys have like I'm almost sure because I went there, so I looked this up like you do when you're going to a place with a lot of wildlife, flora and fauna that's deadly. Don't you have like weird little snakes that are like insanely poisonous? Am I making that up? I'm pretty sure they do have that in Australia.
That sounds pretty scary to me. Criminy, thanks for the $5. My militia commander, you already sent us that one, right? Yeah. Militia commander just left a voicemail saying I haven't paid my dues yet, but I have all my receipts. Good luck with that, Criminy. Wasn't me. Thanks for the $10. Gates could probably get rid of mosquitoes for us. Oh wait, he's the same species. Sorry, never mind. Thank you. Good one. We need a kick drum effect for chats like that. Yeah, exactly. Social emotional. Leia says Russell talks about trans people a lot, though. Well, that's what he means. That's what he's saying.
Okay.
He's committing to never talk about it again. That's what he's just made that promise.
Listen, there's why that comes up. Like, to me, it's part of a whole configuration of ideas. But when I go to, say, a union rally like I was at, and somebody starts yelling like woke shit that just doesn't even belong at that rally, it's always that, man. It's always that. They're not up there screaming DEI, or I guess that's what I would mention. It's always that. So, it's a reflection of what I hear that I find very divisive and undermining to these working class movements. I mean, DEI is too, which we'll get into later, but that's usually just not what they're screaming on a mic.
Right. Conor McGregor was my friend. Thank you, Conor McGregor was my friend. Was no friend of mine. Sorry, it's cutting off there, but one or the other. Thanks to the $4.99. Says, come to Texas. Our mosquitoes have tail numbers. Thank you, Conor McGregor. Appreciate that. Let's get a cowbell for Landrew for $100 and a sound drop for Landrew. Yes. There we go. Birds that eat mosquitoes: purple martins, swallows, nighthawks, house wrens, barn swallows, American robins, yellow warblers, eastern phoebes, and blackpoll warblers. Now that Israel is dead, Palestine will be called New Palestine. Thank you, Landrew. I didn't know all those birds.
Landrew is dead.
I didn't realize, they must not have mentioned that in the 4-minute and 40-second video that I watched, that a bunch of birds also eat mosquitoes. I thought it was just bats and frogs. I thought I had researched it pretty thoroughly. I mean, it was almost 5 minutes, that video. But apparently there's more to it. So thank you for enlightening us on that. Appreciate that very much. And thank you, as always, for the generous contribution.
I just want to say, somebody said, Russ loves Euphoria, though. I do. That was a great show.
Is that not on the air anymore? Or is it coming back? They got to bring that show back.
I don't think it's coming back. I think she got too big. I think Zendaya got too big. I mean, it's been a very long time since that second season.
That's true.
Yeah, listen, man, that was a human story, man. It was a human story that was very well done. Like, I'm a dramatist, man. Like, I don't care whose story you tell, just tell it well, and I'll be interested. It was very insightful. Just beautifully acted. I thought the scripts were really solid. I thought it gave a lot of insight into the Zoomers. It was great. I would recommend that show to anybody.
All right. 30 milligrams, thanks for the $5. I just bought 2-inch lowering springs for my VW Jetta station wagon. Wow. P.S. Me and my family love you too. Well, thank you very much. That's very kind of you. Appreciate that. Unions at a Mafia, Bill Maher. Thank you, Ken Minji. Appreciate that. Eric Rousseau, shut down capitalism. Thank you, Eric Rousseau. Appreciate that very much. I agree. Let's see. Viggy 1121, thanks for the $5. Non-workers will be able to participate in a nationwide shutdown by boycotting anything and everything. That's right. Even non-workers could participate. That's a good point.
Exactly.
R. Dean W. Yes, it's a producer's election. Make money even more when it's a flop. Yes, good point. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. Reminder, folks, we are on Rumble for the after show Q&A tonight, but plenty more to do before then. All right, let's move on. So, folks, bit of significant polling here of a slightly unorthodox kind, because this has less to do with Kamala versus Trump and more to do with a legit surge on the part of the Jill Stein campaign in swing states among Muslim voters. So Jill Stein leads Kamala Harris outright with Muslims in these three battleground states. Vice President Kamala Harris's Muslim problem hasn't been solved as early voting begins, and it could be enough to doom her in crucial swing states. New polling of American Muslims shows the Democratic presidential nominee has yet to consolidate the demographic, and a surprising spoiler is more than holding her own in some battlegrounds. Green Party candidate Jill Stein leads Harris among the group in 6 battleground states overall, 30-28. So that's an overall survey of the 6 key battleground states per the Council on American Islamic Relations survey released Monday. And Stein, a serial candidate at this point, leads outright in Arizona, Michigan, and Wisconsin. 2 of these 3 races are close. One of them is not. And unfortunately for Harris, that's the one with the highest concentration of exponents of the Islamic faith. In the Grand Canyon state, Stein has 35% support to Harris's 29%. She also leads Harris in Wisconsin 44-39%. But the problem is most acute for the Democrat in the Wolverine state, where nearly 250,000 Muslims live amid 8.4 million registered voters. President Biden's problem with uncommitted voters in the uncompetitive primary has seemingly spilled over into Harris's general election race, despite the Veep's fitful triangulating calls for a ceasefire during her otherwise canned rally speeches. You could tell the New York Post had a fun time writing this. Harris ekes out 12% support among Muslim voters, putting her not just behind Stein's 40%, but former President Donald Trump's 18%. So Kamala is at 12% with Muslims in Michigan. Stein at 40, Trump at 18. 12 is even lower. Remember, there was that poll that came out many months ago, way before Biden dropped out of the race, that had Biden polling at 17 with Arabs, and we were like, wow, that's bad. And Kamala's even lower. So amongst this cohort, her numbers actually went down among Muslims. Now, amongst the PMC commentariat cohort, like Kyle and Crystal, they switched to Kamala once the Democrats switched to Kamala. But she's actually faring worse than Biden amongst Muslim voters.
Well, yeah, this doesn't surprise me at all, because the last day of the march, I wish I had asked the question all through, but I started to ask people who they were going to vote for, if anybody, and every single one of them said Jill Stein. None of them said they weren't voting. Certainly none of them said Kamala. None of them said Trump. Jill Stein, Jill Stein, Jill Stein. This is totally consistent with that experience. Every person I asked said Jill Stein who was protesting.
Incredibly, given Trump spent years arguing for a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States, his second place in Michigan isn't his best showing with the group. Trump accomplishes that in Nevada, where his 27% is essentially a dead heat with Harris's 29%, with Stein taking 13%. So Kamala is struggling everywhere amongst Muslims. Muslims are not a monolith either. The data reveal different backing based on age group, and that may have provisional good news for Harris with higher propensity voters. The vice president has roughly a third of support across the entire sample among voters 50 and older, but Stein is no slouch, with a third among those 30 to 39 years of age and a third in her own right among senior citizens. Trump takes a sixth of support among 30-something Muslims. Minor candidates Cornel West and Chase Oliver are non-factors with Muslims, tracking with their performance outside that demographic. That's a nice way to describe. That's a great publicity quote for their campaigns. They are failing with this cohort as they are across the board.
You know, man, honestly, when I saw him in Chicago, man, he doesn't even really have an entourage.
Yeah,
like, he's just basically out there on his own.
Yeah.
I think he got in a lift or something.
Yeah, that's right. You followed him to the car there. Over the entire Muslim American sample, Stein holds her own with Democrats and independents with 32% of support among Dems. So among Democratic Muslims, she's at 32%. Registered Democrat Muslim voters compared to 33 for Harris and 30% among independents compared to 32 for the Veep. So almost no difference there between registered Democrats and independents. Trump has 48% with Republican Muslims, with Stein at 18 and Harris at 11 among that group. So Jill Stein really racking up some shockingly impressive numbers.
Yes.
I mean, I was not expecting to read that. When I read that she was leading with Muslims, I figured it's all right, probably a split, a third with some, impressive numbers here and there that give her bragging rights to say she's leading. But no, that is pretty impressive. I have to say 18% of Republican Muslim voters are voting for Jill Stein. I mean, that's a pretty astounding number as well. Third of Democrats, third of independents. And in Michigan, that's the kind of pressure campaign you want to run if you're the Greens. 40-12 is potentially devastating. Now, if Kamala can open up a lead, that's not there aren't enough Muslims there to swing it if Kamala pads a lead. But these swing state polls are extremely close. As of right now, she doesn't have a big lead. She's well within the margin of error. And Trump outperformed the polls last time in Michigan. Biden won it by about 2.5 points, which was much closer than the polls said. And to be routing her amongst that cohort, that is pretty huge. That is pretty huge and pretty shocking. I mean, that is just an absolute blowout. 40-12, 12%. Because in Dearborn, we've seen it at the rallies. We've covered rallies and protests in Dearborn. This is beyond political. It's beyond ideological. It's personal. These people have family members who have been murdered by the government that Joe Biden has funded and that Kamala Harris continues to fund. And you notice, where is this energy going? It's not going to Donald Trump. Donald Trump is doing badly with Muslims in his own party. Trump is losing 18% of Republican Muslims to Jill Stein. So as they said, they weren't going to go to Trump. They were going to either find a third party to support or they weren't going to support anyone. And 40% is a very impressive number, hugely impressive number.
Well, and, Nick tweeted something out that one I definitely retweeted. And he said, I'm proud of the Muslim community, but frustrated that they're doing what we've been urging the black community to do forever.
Oh, really?
Tell the Democrats, no, we're not going to vote for you as a block. We're just going to go vote third party unless you give us what we want. And they, it's a situation, as you say, it's very personal. It's genocidal. That is why we won't support any of the party candidates or major two-party candidates. And all the more so if you're Muslim with family in that region. What have the Democrats done for you? Kamala has emphatically gone on stage and said nothing will fundamentally change, in essence.
In essence, yes.
In essence. We are going to keep sending weapons. We're for a two-state solution. That was something else I sent you. There was a good video going around of a guy showing presidents since Truman talking about the two-state solution. That's meaningless. It's a dodge. It's something they say to pretend that they're moderate on the issue and to shut people up and get them to look the other way. That doesn't mean anything, especially under these circumstances. What's funny in that clip is Truman back then. See, people forget when we had American presidents that were not owned by AIPAC. Truman, he was a Zionist. He was for Israel, but he said, yeah, what they want by the time they're done, there's going to be no Palestinian left. He said something to that effect. It was back in, apparently when American presidents were still allowed to say things like that. So, that really shows you this didn't start on October 7th. That's Truman saying that back in, 45, 46, somewhere around there. So, man, it's good for them that they're taking it to this. And That's what the pod save people were saying that in response to when I said, some Muslims feel better to teach the Democrats a lesson. They say, oh, that's cute. They think there's going to be another election if Trump gets elected. I mean, they're willing to take that chance, which again, that kind of rhetoric, it's not surprising he keeps getting shot at. As you all know, I did say from pretty early on in the election, or a lot of if Donald Trump is allowed to become president again, I am going to have to rethink what I think about the deep state and how much power it has. Now, I know some people say they don't care about Trump getting in. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. I would agree with you that he is not the threat to power that a lot of people make him out to be. These people are very petty. You need to check every box. When they say jump, you got to say how high. And Trump is just not their creature in the way that Kamala is. He caused problems for them when he was president. Not as many problems as his supporters want to pretend he did, but you can't say he just went with the program either.
No, sure. And on the Jill Stein front, I just have to mention there's no doubt about it that the Democrats see this in internal polling, which explains why they have been on this bizarre blitz against Jill Stein for this past week to week and a half. You saw Breonna Joy Gray going back and forth. Well, not back and forth, but I remember Keith Ellison.
They're having a good couple of weeks.
Yeah, some nasty tweet. And then obviously the Breakfast Club, which we would cover, but as some of you know, they are one of the most notorious copyright claimers in the space, to the point where they might even block the stream if we show their stuff here. So that's why we're not covering that. But most of you guys have seen it if you're online. AOC, obviously, going at Jill Stein, both in her little Instagram live videos and on X, because they are proving to be a real threat in a critically important swing state. I mean, if they split Georgia, Arizona, Pennsylvania, depending on how those split, and I won't get too nerdy with the math right now, but depending on how those split, Michigan is the next state down the line in terms of significance. I mean, there's no doubt Pennsylvania is number 1, Georgia, Arizona, depending on how they split 2 and 3, and then Michigan's right there at number 4. And all of these swing states are very close, very, very close, to the point where that kind of deficit amongst Muslim voters could very well cost you that state. And Shama Sawant, when we talked to her last, was not shy. She said, our intention is to cost Kamala Harris the state of Michigan. She put that in no uncertain terms.
Yep.
Right? Yep. They're not being bashful about what their goals are. Their goals are to boycott the ticket and to tank the ticket. And there's no guarantee that they'll do that because, the Muslim population is not terribly large as a percentage of the overall statewide population. Michigan is a very populous state, where they say 250,000 out of 8 million voters. But in a close enough race, that can make a difference. If the race is close enough, and right now it looks like it can very probably be that tight, because you got Kamala out in front 1.5 points, but Trump outperformed the polls twice in that state. He made it a lot closer in 2020 than it should have been. And so, yeah, I mean, it could all come down to that. That's not an exaggeration. And what a statement that would make if on election night that ends up being the difference maker.
Yeah, but I think we've seen over the years, at this point, the Democrats are such a wholly owned subsidiary of their donors and the military-industrial complex and AIPAC. Even if they lose, they'll just double down.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not saying it's going
to. Their people in the media will just demonize Jill Stein and her voters again. And, they'll just keep taking the money. It's like Jimmy always says, they're paid to lose.
Of course. No, I'm not saying it's going to force any introspection on their part. I'm just saying what a statement that is.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
What a statement that is.
And that's something that I think this is how Shama's thinking tactically to organize off the fallout from that.
Right. Exactly. Yep. Because blame is another word for credit, as we say here.
Yep.
It's not blame. When they blame you, they're giving you credit. Blame is what gives you power, right? So embrace it. And that's what they're looking to do. And, they're on their way. Ken Texican, thanks for the $5. Is there a Casablanca remake with Russell on the tarmac with a really hot-looking latter-day Ingrid Bergman? We'll always have Dave Chappelle. Thank you, Ken Texican.
If you don't vote for Jill Stein, you'll regret it someday. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but soon and for the rest of your life.
Yeah. How would you
Not
respond?
a bad bogey, right? That was a pretty good bogey.
Yeah, that's not bad. That's not bad. I like that. Kate Cotwas, thanks for the $2. How would you respond to the argument that Kamala is the less bad option and would be easier to resist than Trump? I mean, I don't think necessarily she'd be easier to resist. I mean, what do you mean by easier to resist? I mean, she's probably less likely to crack your head open for spray painting a statue. I mean, I'd give her that. But beyond that, I mean, when you talk about in terms of influencing policy, I think the Biden years were a good test case for that, you know, and they have not seemed any more responsive to input on a policy level than Trump. And look, I'm staunchly opposed to Donald Trump as well, as we've been making increasingly clear these past few weeks, to the frustration of some of our viewers, and that's okay. But when we say we're opposed to duopoly, we mean that in both directions. That's the only way to mean it. And so, you know,
listen. Honestly, you know, obviously I've been thinking a lot about this. How could we not? We're in this space where it's an election year. The election's a month and a half. Obviously, you know, people want to pick sides. I've said very often that there's something slavish in human nature. Sometimes I call that the peasant mentality. But on this level, I'm really talking about the tendency of primates, hierarchical primates, to want to rally around an alpha figure. And I think it's very difficult for people to resist that impulse. I'm seeing a lot of people who are very angry with the liberal class for good reason. And they want to get behind Trump, man. It's like a whirlpool, man. It sucks them in,
right? Because
they want to. It's, you know, Bob Dylan, very far past his prime. I keep thinking of it. He dropped a song called "You Got to Serve Somebody." I think that's what a lot of people think. They gotta. I don't. I never have. I never will. You don't gotta serve fucking nobody, man. You don't gotta serve Trump. You don't gotta serve Kamala. You don't gotta serve MAGA. You don't gotta follow the Dems. You don't gotta fall in line with anybody. That's a primate impulse. It makes a slave of you. Trump is a moron. He is a moron. He does not give a shit about you. Democrats are not any better. That's where it is. That's where it is. You don't have to join up with anybody. And I get, especially, look, let's call it for what it is. The people who are really most drawn to running to Trump's under his skirts are white men, because the other side has been so charming to that group. I can't imagine why they want to run to somebody who's going to tell them what they want to hear and cater to their cultural grievances, which, hey, I think a lot of those grievances are legitimate. And I've been saying for a very long time, well, that's a very interesting strategy to alienate the largest voting bloc in the country, which still is white men and will be for the foreseeable future. Yeah, let's just tell them all they're responsible for all the world's evils. What did you think that was going to do? Of course, it was going to generate an enormous opportunity for the right wing to snag those people. They didn't have to work hard at it. Just don't tell them they're responsible for everything that's wrong with the world and that their masculinity is toxic, and you got them. You got them. And now here we are. You see a lot of people who at one time were at the very least liberals, like Elon Musk. Elon Musk was a lib, man. He was a lib. He was an Obama person. Now he's all the way over there. Well, I can't imagine why, when you were being so charming to people of that identity group. And then you have other people who, you know, Trump has been expanding his presence in non-white communities. And hey, man, the country's falling apart. It's devastating. It's devastated in a lot of parts. The working class is suffering. The Democrats have done nothing but show contempt for working people, open cultural contempt for them. And that makes them, again, very susceptible to someone who's going to come along and say, in maybe a, you know, more comical tone, I feel your pain. And
Right.
It's American carnage out there because, hey, man, that's what a lot of people are living. And Kamala goes on stage and basically does another version of America's Already Great. And yeah, man, those people are going to run to that person. But it doesn't mean that person is right. It doesn't mean that person is good. I think a lot of people want to convince themselves of that. For the same reason a lot of people turn to religion, which we were talking about before. It's very hard to live in a world where there are no good choices. It's very hard psychologically. It's a big burden to live in a world like that, especially because it's hard to figure out where your community is at that point. Whereas when you sign up with a team, now you got a community. Now you're part of something. Now I'm MAGA or I'm K-Hive. Or again, that's the slave mind. That's the slave mind. You don't have to serve these people. You don't have to bow to these people. As my rather morose partner often points out, this is a funeral for the American empire that we are sitting in on. And we have to move past these people and we have to figure out what's next. But you don't have to serve anybody, because where that road leads, it's pretty soon you're just gonna be just like the blue MAGA people that you were trying to get away from, man. I can see it happening. It's just like one step at a time, one step. Yeah, they're right about this thing. Yeah, they're right about that thing. Yeah, those libs called me a straight white man. Yeah, before you know it, you're running around with the red hat. You know, you don't have to do that either.
Right. Yeah. Oops, sorry. Dr. Durkin, heated nurses strike in Honolulu, not overpay, but over high nurse-to-patient ratios. The hospital locked them out after the first day of striking. Outcome will impact the healthcare of all Hawaii. Thank you. We will look into that maybe for Tuesday. Thank you for that. Let's see here. Russ, don't miss out on playing with the cassowaries when you visit Australia. Thank you, Raven Last. Appreciate that.
If they had half a chance, they'd kill you and everyone you ever loved.
There you go. Nocturnal Human, there's lots of spam and crazies in chat today, but mods are doing great. LOL. Thank you, Nocturnal Human.
Thank you,
appreciate
mods.
that. And thank you, mods.
We anticipated we'd have more than usual today.
Yeah. China Shell. Come on, Keaton, and unbutton the top 3 and let your inner Hawaiian shirt guy free. How many do I have unbuttoned? Oh, yeah, I have it buttoned up pretty tight. Playing it pretty conservative.
Let your
tonight.
inner Jimmy Buffett out.
That's right. Sparky, thanks for the $10, was fixing up my campsite and noticed a can break rattlesnake close by. I didn't know if I said that right. Funny, he was coiled up in a Gadsden flag pose, as if to say, we're cool as long as you don't tread on me. Well, there you go. Very charismatic rattlesnake there, Sparky. Thank you for that. Leon Scott, thanks for the $2. Can we hear thoughts on Breakfast Club interview? Well, I addressed that. I mean, not really. I watched like a little bit of it, but we can't cover it because they'll copyright claim us. So the price they pay for that is I don't really watch them. So I watched maybe like 10 seconds of it, and then I realized, oh, this is Breakfast Club. I can't use this. Yeah, so unfortunately, I did not pay too much focus to that. Harpa, thanks for the $2. I live in Key West and only wear Hawaiian shirts. There you go. I'm going to give you a heart on that, Harpa. Thank you for that. Michael Castillo, thanks for the $5. Yeah, what happened? I thought you were on a date tonight. Date is running late. Sabby Sabs destroyed Angela Rye on how she treated Jill Stein on The Breakfast Club. Okay. Thank you, Michael Castillo. So did Sabby play it and just take the hit with the copyright thing? Because when we've used their stuff, not only have they copyright claimed it, like that doesn't matter that much. I mean, you just can't monetize it, which is not great, but whatever, we'll do it anyway. But they've actually blocked the video. They've actually like not given you a strike, but blocked it so no one can watch it. So in that case, there's really no point. But good to hear, Michael Castillo, and hope your date arrives soon. Sparky, thanks for the $10. Although quite venomous, cane break, I hope I'm saying that right, rattlesnakes, timber rattlesnakes, were a fitting snake for the Gadsden flag, as they are laid back and won't even rattle unless you mess with them. Thank you. Interesting. Queensboro Figs, thanks for the $5. Lesser of two evils and menor de mals. Thank you, Queensboro Figs. Appreciate that. Brent Yoendo, thanks for the $5. I said, what if we kissed in the Do Dissidents chat and bad cookies and did first chat kiss? There you go. All right, I'm going to put a little heart on there. I like that. Thank you, Brent Yoendo. Appreciate that very much. Okay, folks.
You see my text?
Yeah. He's gone. Did you send me a new one?
No, not that. The other one.
Oh. I don't know. I didn't see it.
Well, apparently
I don't know what
information is coming out on this assassin.
Oh, okay. I don't know what you're referring to.
Yeah, you're more sensitive to guidelines than I am. That's
well.
why
Then let's do it on the Rumble side. Then why not? We're gonna give an update on the Rumble side anyway, because I don't know what we're.
All right.
I don't know what we're doing.
Yes.
So yeah, we have the Q&A anyway.
Okay. All right.
Okay. So all right. So we'll give you an update on that on the Rumble side. Eric Rousseau does the Pope shit in the wood. Thank you, Eric Rousseau. Appreciate that.
JD has Jimmy has an update on who the shooter was.
Okay.
You never know with these people, man. Like misinformation, whatever. We'll do it on Rumble.
Yeah, we're gonna switch to Rumble anyway for the Q&A, and that's when we were gonna take a pause to sort of regroup and look at that stuff anyway. So, Keaton, is there any chance that all your new baby is actually Dave Grohl's love child? I'll hang up and listen. Thanks. No, there is no chance of that. My wife has better taste than that. My wife is a Google Dolls and Counting Crows fan, which are, I mean, I like the Counting Crows a great deal, actually. I think they're a very good band for what they are. Google Dolls, I'm softer on, but they're both far superior to the Foo Fighters. The Foo Fighters are absolute garbage for what they are.
Mr. Jones is one of my favorite songs.
Oh, man, Mr. Jones is an amazing song. I mean, they're an amazing band. I mean, they really are great songwriters. Yeah, absolutely. Mr. Jones is terrific. They have a lot of great stuff. Great songwriters for sure. Let's see here. The Vanguard van. I need to speak to Gavin's real father. Does he speak honky? Oh, wait, never mind. My horn is still broke. Thanks, Vanguard van. Appreciate that very much. Okay, let's go to Pablo Diablo. Holy Father doesn't say much about the fact that both candidates endorse genocide. Well, he has, like I said, he's spoken out on that before. So, he has been on record about that. Okay, let's go to this one. Okay, folks, this is somewhat, I won't say it's an old story, but this is a story that broke almost a week ago today and went very much under the radar. But this ICJ case has kind of been one of our beats, and so we thought we should shine a light on this since most people missed it, including ourselves. So, scoop, this is from Axios. Israel asks Congress to press South Africa to drop ICJ genocide case. Israel is lobbying members of Congress to press South Africa to drop its legal proceedings in the International Court of Justice over the war in Gaza, according to an Israeli Foreign Ministry cable obtained by Axios. Why it matters. South Africa has until October 28th to give the top UN court its arguments for continuing the case against Israel over alleged violations of the Genocide Convention during the war in Gaza. Israeli officials say they want members of Congress to make clear to South Africa that there will be consequences for continuing to pursue the case. Israel hopes the new coalition government in South Africa will take a different approach to Israel and the war in Gaza, the officials said. South Africa will file its memorial to the ICJ in October and intends to provide facts and evidence to prove that Israel is committing the crime of genocide in Palestine, the South African presidency said in a statement on Tuesday. This case will continue until the court makes a finding. While the case is in progress, we hope that Israel will abide by the court's provisional orders issued to date, the statement continued. Behind the scenes, Israeli officials said the Israeli Foreign Ministry started a diplomatic campaign in recent weeks to press South Africa not to push forward with the case at the ICJ. The U.S. Congress is a main tool in the effort. On Monday, the Israeli Foreign Ministry sent a classified cable to the Israeli embassy in Washington, D.C., and to all Israeli consulates in the U.S. about South Africa's ICJ case. We are asking you to immediately work with lawmakers on the federal and state level, with governors and Jewish organizations to put pressure on South Africa to change its policy towards Israel and to make clear that continuing their current actions, like supporting Hamas, even though the ICC has issued an arrest warrant for Hamas leaders and for Netanyahu, different body, but the ICC is investigating both, and pushing anti-Israeli moves in international courts will come with a heavy price, the cable read. Zoom in. The Israeli diplomats were instructed to ask members of Congress to issue public statements condemning South Africa's actions against Israel and threaten that it could lead to suspending U.S. trade relations with South Africa. That's unlikely to happen because the U.S. wants to maintain its relationship with South Africa in order to counter the influence of Russia and China. The Israeli diplomats were also instructed to ask members of Congress and Jewish organizations in the U.S. to reach out directly to South African diplomats in the U.S. and make clear South Africa would pay a heavy price if it doesn't change its policy. Another path the Israeli diplomats were instructed to pursue was pushing legislation against South Africa on the state and federal levels that even if they won't materialize, presenting them and talking about them will be important in trying to influence South African policy. The Israeli Foreign Ministry asked diplomats to lobby for hearings about South Africa's policy towards Israel in state legislatures. The Israeli diplomats were also instructed to make their diplomatic activity regarding South Africa as public as possible in the U.S. press and on social media. The Israeli Foreign Ministry declined to comment. The South African embassy in Washington didn't respond to a request for comment. Final slide here, wrapping up the big picture. Last June, a new unprecedented multi-party coalition government was formed in South Africa after the ruling ANC party lost the majority it had for 30 years. According to the cable, Israeli diplomats were instructed to emphasize the message that the ANC has a chance to change course as part of the new government and pursue dialogue with Israel instead of boycotts and punishments. Well, there you have it. First of all, you cross out the word Israel and put Russia. This is a major scandal with indictments and investigations and round-the-clock news coverage. But that's not the world we live in. That's it right there. The fact that they're doing, because don't forget, folks, they could tell the ICJ to go get their fucking shine box. They're not like this is not going to result in any direct, immediate punitive measures. The reason they are in a tizzy about this to the point where they're exerting that level of influence is because, as we've been covering these past few weeks, the economic pressure is working. It is working. And that's why these rulings are important, because if they can force the UK to suspend certain weapon shipments for fear of violating international law, if, what was it? Was it a French bank had divested from Israel?
Yeah, an investment bank, yeah.
Yeah, if these institutions can start pulling back investment in Israel for fear of being entangled in international scandals vis-a-vis rulings like these, that's working, and that's why they're doing this. They're doing this because they are feeling the pressure. So on the one hand, you could say, well, with the U.S. in its corner, what threat is the ICJ to the Israeli state? Well, there you have it. This all works to mount economic pressure on their state. And that economic pressure is having an impact. If it weren't, they wouldn't waste their time with this, because the ICJ is not going to shut them down like this. It's going to be drip, 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 drip. We're going to be able to slow their economy down to a halt at this rate. And that is why they're worried. And that's why they're taking these measures.
Yeah, I believe it was AXA divested from Israel after a lot of effort from activists. There was also Scotiabank, I think, also divested about half of its holdings from Israel, not all of them yet. Also, Mondo Weiss did a great article getting into this. A lot of Israelis are pulling their money out of Israeli retirement accounts because they're afraid the state is not going to exist when they retire, and they're putting their money elsewhere. So, yeah, you get an ICJ ruling. It also gives moral legitimacy to companies that may want to cede to activist pressure and just need a little more PR cover. Hey, well, the ICJ is, we can't do it. So, yeah, it's one more way to pressure companies not to do business with Israel. And as we've been saying emphatically, U.S., no matter who wins, Trump, Kamala, the U.S. is not going to change its policy. This is the only way to take down Israel. You have got to destroy their economy. Everything you can do to take money out of their pocket, that is the way. We have got to eliminate the capacity of Israel to continue to function as a state. The only way to do that is economic warfare.
Yep. And they are feeling that. And I think that explains this action.
Yeah.
Okay. Why don't we pause for a brief moment, Jake, for a word from our patrons, our Substackers, our locals, subscribers. We thank you guys all very much for your support. If you would like to join the party, go to patreon.com/DoDissidents. You can also go to dodissidents.substack.com, or you can join our locals. That's dodissidents.locals.com. For as little as $5 a month, you get some perks. You get your name up on the show credits here. You also get call-in access to our weekly post-show Q&As every Sunday night on Rumble. And, folks, tonight is Sunday, which means we are doing a Q&A after the conclusion of the program. We will have a 5-minute break. Russell has a special treat for you guys on the intermission, so if you can take your phone with you to the bathroom during the intermission break and watch that, I think you'll get a kick out of that. It's very, very good. I've seen it before. He showed it to me a couple years ago, actually. But
it is,
that's
yeah,
really fun.
yes. I put in a special video for the intermission that I made a few years ago, but you're going to have to be able to read because it's subtitles. It
is subtitled. That's right. So remember, take your phone or your iPad to the restroom during the break. But if you go to dodissidents.locals.com, or if you're watching on Rumble, you can click that join link underneath the video player. That takes you to our locals page, where for as little as $5 a month, you get your name up in lights here on the show scroll. You get call-in access once a week to our Q&As, and you get 2 bonus live streams per month, which are interactive live streams. You do about an hour of content just like we would on the show, and then we take about an hour of calls. We also have our film club, which we're going to get started. We have to pick our first film and get that going because the month's half gone already. It's getting late.
I'm trying to figure out if we should go chronologically or it's just like whatever.
I think we should go thematically, man.
I feel like the candidate would be the best one to start with.
All right, maybe we'll do that.
Given the season.
Maybe we'll do that. That's an idea. I like that idea. We also are going to be live streaming, special events from time to time. Our arts festival coming up in the spring is going to be live streamed for our patrons. Russell's walking tour of New York will be live streamed for the patrons. We did 2 live shows in Manhattan, in Hell's Kitchen for a wonderful audience. Those are up there, so you get access to the back catalog of all the exclusive material when you join. So join our locals, dodissidents.locals.com, or if you're watching on Rumble, just click that bright red join button underneath the video player. Okay, where are we at right now? Oh, okay, this is Russell's. Okay, we got a movie review. Speaking of film club, we got a movie review. Let's do some super chats first, though, because I forgot. Okay. We got to let's get some of these done. Miserable Lib, have you seen the video with the woman doing the brutal takedown of Bloody Bash? Kudos to that lady.
No, I haven't seen that.
I have not.
Thank
you for the recommendation.
Gotta find that.
K-Cot was, the deeper secular problem is that human rights aren't derived from an ontological natural law, therefore can be taken away by the state. The whole free speech problem is a symptom of this. Thank you, K-Cot was, appreciate that. Pablo Diablo, if Pope was really concerned with genocide, he would threaten the president with excommunication. Could you imagine the impact of that declaration? Yeah, amen, I agree with that. Yeah, he should. I forgot about that. Yeah, I'm not that intimately familiar with the House rules, so that wasn't front of mind. But now that you mention it, yeah, that's a good idea.
If he did that, I might convert.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, we would take his place.
I like those wafers.
Yeah. Wear steel-toe shoes when using a Keaton cutting board. Yes, I should have worn my shoes that day. The Alaskan state bird is the mosquito. I lived there 30 years ago, drove a soft-top Jeep right before the winter. You see your breath in winter. A silver dollar-sized mosquito was living under my dash. Wow. Yep.
Wow.
7 trillion mosquitoes there. I learned that. Okay. Here we go. Ken Texigan, thanks for the $5. Russ's impromptu interview of Sana Waz at the DNC crap convention did more for Stein. Dropped a U.S. grant on Waz organization without a cowbell and no care in the world. Russ kicked ass miking up. Well, thank you. Thank you for that very much. All right. Thank you very much for that. Mark Pugliese. Russ, we do have to pull together against the establishment going forward. Amen.
Exactly.
Just keep serving up the truth, says Ken Tex. Again, most of your listening audience not only can handle the truth, I'm inclined to think most demand it. I was watching listening to an old Come Town bit, the old podcast, the Nick Mullen, Adam Friedland stuff podcast.
Mm-hmm.
They were doing a Few Good Men parody. It just was fed to me on YouTube. He says in the Jack Nicholson voice, "You want the truth? Why don't you come over here and suck my dick for it?"
On a more serious note, yes, the numbers have borne that out. There's the Twitter is not real life thing. We don't want to get into it, man. We did enough content about it, but I think I know why you're saying that. Man, just like with the woke left, the woke right, they're very loud online because they're snowflake crybabies, but they don't represent a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
Like they think they do because they're all over the comments and everything. But you look at the viewership, it's the same as a normal Sunday. You didn't lose any patrons, subs, very, very little, and overall gained because we have more people coming in than that lost. Like, they think, and I guess a lot of those people are very impotent in their real life. And that's why they would feel that need to this is the downside of the internet, man. It turned everybody into Kathy Bates in Misery.
Right.
Everybody thinks they're a producer. Everybody thinks they have a right to dictate the content.
You did it! You murdered my misery!
That's it. They hear one take they don't like, and it reminds them of they haven't gotten an erection in 6 years, and they want to take it out on you. But if you look at the numbers, man, that's not a lot of people. And what you got to do is make sure it doesn't become a lot of people by doing segments like that. Because once it becomes a lot of people, guess what? They're not your audience anymore. They're your bosses.
Right.
And then you can't do that unless you're prepared to take a tremendous hit, which most people, once they get to that point, they're not going to do it. They're not going to do it. Then their organization is built around a certain amount of revenue that they have to keep coming in. They got payroll to make. They got production that they got to cover. And that's it. Now you're working for those people. Fuck
That's
that.
right.
I'd rather go back to tour guiding.
Mac Truck Russ, I'm 100% on board with you. Nothing says anywhere that Americans have to vote. I wish I understood this the moment I turned 18, but now I'm as free as a bird. Free bird. Thank you, Mac Truck. Appreciate that. Thank you very much. Okay. All right. Sparky, thanks for the $10. Recent encounter reminded me of why the cane break was chosen for that flag. Oh, sorry. You got it. Repeat. Oh, sorry, Sparky. I read that one already. John N., thanks for the $5, said, tried 3 times to update on the suspect today. Can't get past censors. Yeah, that's why we figure we'll just, as information's coming in, we're switching to Rumble anyway, so we may as well just do it over there. Q-Star, thanks for the $9.99. Q-Star Sonic, appreciate that. Sparky, for $5, thank you very much, says, Jill Stein may do well despite being encumbered by the Fed-infiltrated do-nothing Green Party. Well, yeah, look, we had a little thing on Twitter that happened, and, whatever. I mean, there's more important things. There
are more important things,
Yeah.
and we've always been in support of them. We've always said, hey, if she's on the ballot in your state, go vote for her.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think a lot of us are veterans of the Bernie Sanders campaigns. So we're very hesitant to direct people into things that don't look together, if you know what I mean.
Marianne Williamson eats mosquitoes. Thank you, says Polyganda for $4.99. Appreciate that. Chris Bedford, thanks for the $5. Jill Stein, y'all, and Jose Vega if you are in his district. Thank you, Chris.
Hey, man,
Bedford.
nobody is happier at those numbers than we are.
Yeah, of course.
We are very, very happy to see that.
Absolutely, yep. Bowie75, Sabby did a huge segment using multiple Breakfast Club segments. Do it, you guys. Angel Arai is evil and must be destroyed. Well, it's kind of old news by now. We would have done it
now
Thursday.
Nobody cares.
Yeah, now no one cares. Apparently you care, though. Sorry. Didn't mean. No one cares except you. Sorry. Okay.
I mean, by the time we would drop it, it's so
It would
passe.
yeah, exactly.
Look, Kinky got a Nona slice, man.
I know. Oh, she tweeted out her Nona slice, and I retweeted it from our account. Yeah, looks great. Beautiful.
So anybody who comes on that tour, the tour ends like 3 blocks from Bleecker Street Pizza.
Awesome. All right, why don't we move on? We got a little movie review. Russell went to the movies. I did not.
I did go to the movies.
Yeah,
yes. Okay. All right. So I'm going to do a little review, but I'll also give some background on this first. All right. So we covered this extensively pretty early on because I remember pulling a couple of these articles. Almost as soon as the DEI thing burst onto the scene, there was a lot of criticism that ultimately the whole perspective of the anti-racist industry was very racist, that it was reinforcing racial antagonism. And this was not just something that you would find on the Daily Wire. This was a point of view you'd find in the New York Times, lib, rag, in good standing. And this article's from 2021 originally, I think. Over the years, social scientists who have conducted careful reviews of the evidence base for diversity training have frequently come to discouraging conclusions. Though diversity training workshops have been around in one form or another since at least the 1960s, few of them are ever subjected to rigorous evaluation, and those that are mostly appear to have little or no positive long-term effects. The lack of evidence is, quote, disappointing, wrote Elizabeth Levy Pollock of Princeton and her co-authors in a 2021 annual review of psychology article, quote, considering the frequency with which calls for diversity training emerge in the wake of widely publicized instances of discriminatory conduct. Dr. Pollock's term found that just 2 large experimental studies in the previous decade that attempted to evaluate the effects of diversity training and met basic quality benchmarks. Other researchers have been similarly unimpressed. Quote, we have been speaking to employers about this research for more than a decade, wrote the sociologist Frank Dobbin and Alexandra Kalev in 2018, with the message that diversity training is likely the most expensive and least effective diversity program around. Parenthetical, to be fair, not all of these critiques apply as sharply to voluntary diversity training. If diversity training had no impact whatsoever, that would mean that perhaps billions of dollars are being wasted annually in the United States on these efforts. But there's a darker possibility. Some diversity initiatives might actually worsen the DEI climates of the organizations that pay for them. So you started to get this very early on. Now, Robin DiAngelo, who you might know, got humiliated by this film, really. There she is, the original. This is in New York Magazine. I believe this was 2021. Is the anti-racism training industry just peddling white supremacy? And he tells one of the most famous stories about Robin DiAngelo's white fragility. Matt Taibbi actually did a great article dwelling on this. Out of DiAngelo's one of DiAngelo's favorite examples is instructive. She uses the famous story of Jackie Robinson. Rather than say he broke through the color line, she instructs people instead to describe him as, quote, Jackie Robinson, the first black man whites allowed to play Major League Baseball. It is true, of course, that Robinson was not the first black man who was good enough at baseball to make a major league roster. The Brooklyn Dodgers decided, out of a combination of idealism and self-interest, to violate the norm against signing black players. And Robinson was chosen due to a combination of his skill and extraordinary personality that allowed him to withstand the backlash in store for the first black major leaguer. It is not an accident that DiAngelo changes the story to eliminate Robinson's agency and obscure his heroic qualities. It's the point. Her program treats individual merit as a myth to be debunked. Even a figure as remarkable as Robinson is reduced to a mere pawn of systemic oppression. So yes, this is one of the things that from pretty early on in the show, we did cover and speak out against, not because I personally don't think that there is systemic racism. It's because I've always seen this as a grift and as part of an effort to divide people, and particularly when you talk about people like Robin DiAngelo, who charges outrageous sums, or Ibram X. Kendi, ditto. It's a big grift. It's a big grift. It is very much like the war on terror, the way that they frame racism. It's a problem that can never be resolved, which is very convenient if that's how you make your living. If you're making your living off ginning up racial tension, they have no interest in actually solving it. And I don't think it's an accident that, as the previous article said, studies strongly suggest that it actually makes things worse. That's very good for business. So by the time this movie is coming out, this whole industry, this whole grift is already collapsing. You can see multiple headlines. Google, Meta cut their programs. Microsoft fired the DEI team. Even Hollywood has been firing the DEI executives. Ford, Coors Light are retreating from the gay rights index. They don't want to be ranked on it anymore because they've been getting a lot of pressure. So I think the greatest example of the fact that this house of cards was already collapsing is the fact that this film got a wide release without a lot of pushback. I can't imagine that 3 years ago you wouldn't have had massive pressure on the theaters not to have the film. So this brings us to Matt Walsh's Am I Racist? Which he just dropped. Now, not following the cultural trend, the critics are embargoing it the same way they embargoed What is a Woman? You could see 99% audience score, but only fringe outlets, independent outlets. I'm not trying to denigrate them, but just pointing out, you don't have the New York Times here. You don't have the Washington Post here. None of those, because so many of these journalists rely on access to people in Hollywood. And Hollywood, this film is anathema. They don't want to burn their bridges, so they will not review it. So this is, as far as I can tell, there's literally one theater in the country that caved to activist pressure and pulled the movie. A theater in this lives of TikTok. A theater in California canceled their showing of Am I Racist after left-wing activists bullied them. They caved to the pressure and are now claiming the movie causes division and can harm their staff. Cowards! But that's it. That's it. And that really tells you something about where we are. This is Matt Walsh. It's Matt Walsh. It's the Daily Wire. It's a film questioning the entire anti-racist DEI grift. And that's it. One theater in the whole country. So the times, they are a-changing. Now, this is kind of a good sign of how the times are changing. So these people all got paid for their appearances in the films, all of these DEI trainers. And at one time, if this film had come out at one time, they would have been running a cancel campaign against everyone involved in this film. Instead, they have all deleted their accounts, including Robin DiAngelo has deleted her account, because they have essentially been canceled after the release of this film, at least on social media. Another sign of the changing times, Variety, Hollywood Reporter, they're all reporting on this as a movie. They're not writing their articles with a tone of apoplectic outrage. They're treating it as a movie with a right to exist, which was very different from the coverage of his previous film, What is a Woman? So they say a couple of interesting things in here about what's happening with the industry and what the implications of what we now know is the success of this movie is. It's released in 1,500 theaters. That's a pretty normal release. That's a wide release. Quote, they're leaving plenty of money on the table and we're happy to come in and take some of it, because at a minimum, you are explicitly refusing to serve 50% of the audience, Walsh says, of Hollywood's aversion to red state sensibilities. There's no denying the film's studio level production values, which must be pretty low if he's telling the truth, because he was talking about Borat on his own show in one of his own segments and how people were comparing it to Borat. And Borat, he said the budget was 18 million. And I think he said our budget was 1/19 of that. So under $1 million, according to Walsh.
Well, don't forget, too, in 2024, you could make a movie look great for much, much cheaper than you could in 2006.
True.
2006, now you could shoot a movie that looks like that on your phone. That's literally true now. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the movie certainly doesn't look cheap. It doesn't have that look to it. There's no denying the film's studio level production values. In fact, several of the principals hail from traditional Hollywood backgrounds. Producer Dallas Saunier was a manager who broke the careers. This is pretty funny given where he ends up. Broke the careers of Greta Gerwig and Leslie Headland. Those of you in the know will know Leslie Headland as the creator of the much despised Acolyte. Before fleeing the mainstream industry because of its politicized nature, he says. Director Justin Folk worked on the visual effects teams of such films as The Matrix Reloaded before bailing to tackle stories, quote, more about the war of ideas and what's going on in our country, as he describes it. And Boring ran Coattails Entertainment with Zachary Levi before teaming up with Shapiro. I didn't know that. Quote, Hollywood is focused on its own problems internally and can't even contemplate what would resonate with an audience in the South or the Midwest today, Saunier says. Conservative audiences have simply checked out of what Hollywood is making outside of the tentpoles. As Walsh sees it, the once fertile genre of low-budget comedy is a wide open lane. Quote, the left was using satire to mock the views that they disagree with, he says, noting Sacha Baron Cohen's Borat playbook. Comedy died in Hollywood at some point. It just fell off a cliff. It got to a point where you can't make jokes about anything anymore. There's no one left that you can even poke fun at except for white men, I suppose. But after a while, those jokes get pretty old too. So then, everything's stale. And I think it's where we are now. Well said. And that's something that I'm finding very interesting. And I agree with everything they're saying there. Look, you got a huge swath of the country, as has long been predicted. Disney's is collapsing, even in its animation division, except when it occasionally releases an animated movie that doesn't have any politics to it. Half the country, at least, is conservative. They don't want these kinds of messages in their movies, and Hollywood refuses to make movies that are going to cater to that audience. So eventually, it was inevitable they're going to start to go somewhere else for that content, and nature abhors a vacuum. And naturally, you're hearing all these stories from screenwriters and experienced people about how they can't get hired anymore. You have to check certain diversity boxes to get a job. Inevitably, they were going to go somewhere to start making their own stuff. Eventually, you're going to find somebody. You're leaving an enormous market opportunity, which so far Daily Wire is best seizing on. But Hollywood cannot forever continue to make movies that people don't like, that they find offensive, that nobody wants to watch. And, so far, this particular production company is doing the best job of capitalizing on that. You want to say anything before I go on?
No, go ahead.
Nope. Where am I? There we go. Okay, so we know now it is done very well. In the biggest surprise of the weekend, conservative provocateur Matt Walsh's Am I Racist opened in 4th place with an estimated 4.8 million from 1,517 locations, the top debut of 2024 so far for a doc, and the third biggest since Disney's nature film Bears a decade ago. Am I Racist is doing big business in conservative markets in the South, Midwest, and Mountain States, which is exactly what he was saying. These are underserved markets, and they're seizing an opportunity. All right, so to get to the film, I'm not going to play this because who knows, we don't want to get flagged on copyright. But all right, so the movie opens with this real footage of he got this morning news show in Utah to think he was a diversity trainer. And right from the beginning, the movie is pretty funny. Telling them they have to spread their arms out to get rid of their whiteness, but the one on the right is Asian. He said, "This isn't so much for you. This is for her." All right, so this is something I've said about Matt Walsh a lot. Jimmy actually repeated it to him when he was interviewing him. Yeah, Matt Walsh, he gets what he is. He talks about how this used to be the province of the left. It was, and that is what's so almost bizarro world about Matt Walsh. Somebody with his comic talents, and more than that, his comic sensibility, this very dry, sarcastic, lampooning social mores, that belonged to the left. That was a left pose. That was a counterculture left comedy pose. But because the liberal class have come to dominate the mainstream of the culture, a guy like Walsh with those talents, how could he even do comedy from the left? He'd get canceled. He has to do it from the right. He'd get, if he built his business relationships on the left, could he make this movie? I think a guy like this 30 years ago, he would have been trying to get on SNL. That is what I honestly believe about Matt Walsh. I think today, in the current climate, if you really want to be a bomb thrower, if you really want to be a gadfly in the entertainment space, you'd almost be forced to find your financing in the conservative ecosystem. Whatever your personal politics, where else would you be able to get the support to do something like this? So this is kind of the end of the movie, or where he ends up and says, okay, so how did I get here? All right, so he goes on a series of very, very much like What is a Woman? He set up a series of interviews with different DEI practitioners. The first one he speaks to, this was pretty funny. And again, he's bringing out these core contradictions and hypocrisies. The DEI trainer that he's interviewing, she says, with my kids, even with them, even with me talking to them, he said, how young is too young to talk to them about DEI? 6 months too young? I don't think it's ever too young. Even my children, I see them watching the Disney princesses and they pick the white princess. He says, yeah, well, my daughter picks Moana, but then she wants the Moana costume for Halloween, and then that's appropriation, right? So what do? I want her to pick the non-white princess, but then what if she wants to dress as the non-white princess? Do I get her that? And right. You can see, like, he's very clever that way. He's very funny, has a great comic mind. And, he did a great job here exposing those contradictions. He goes and he speaks to some kind of salt of the earth, black people and church people, a guy who works in a garage who, don't support these ideas. He goes to a biker bar where, again, the people are kind of conveyed as very salt of the earth. Like, I don't care what color you are. And I'm not putting on this accent to make fun of them. It's in that part of the country. That was really the way they spoke. I don't care what color you are. Now, look, is that selective? Can you very well find people in a biker bar who don't have those views? Yes. But I think it's fair enough to show, given that the cliche would be that people like that all are, these virulent deplorables. I think it's fair enough to debunk that. And I think it's fair enough, given that the cliche that all black people support these ideas, when really it's this very tiny intellectual elite that mostly is not of color. It is mostly white people. It's fair enough to show that most of that community doesn't really like this approach to race relations. So he goes on this odyssey. He goes to the very famous, white women at dinner thing, and that was particularly funny. He went in with the COVID mask there. I guess he was afraid he'd get recognized. He infiltrated as a waiter because men are not allowed there. So as they're lambasting these white women, eventually he says, you're making a great point. They need to hear this. They all need it. Can I sit down? Can I? It just disrupts the whole thing. So that was great. But of course, the thing that everybody is talking about is Robin DiAngelo, who this is the funny thing. You want to see how online is not real life. You say, how could Robin DiAngelo not have known who Matt Walsh is? But apparently she did not. So this is one of the funniest things in the movie. This is one of his producers, Ben, for real, who is black. And so Matt Walsh takes money out of his wallet and hands him reparations. And Robin DiAngelo says that was really weird. It's like, why? She said, well, reparations is more of an institutional thing. So, well, I'm not going to wait for institutions. Why should I wait for institutions? I want to give him reparations. And there's this uncomfortable silence. She's like, do you want me to give you money? And she goes and gets her wallet. So the whole movie, it was very well made. And again, he brings out a very interesting contradiction in this philosophy, because I think we all know by the time the government would pass reparations, good luck with that. Okay, so you believe so much in reparations, why don't you create a fund? Create a reparations fund. She charged $15,000 for this 2-hour interview. She's got plenty of money. Why don't you start a fund? Yeah, I mean, it's not a solution by itself, but all the people who believe this, who are well off like she is, why don't you start a fund? So it does, I think, raise a deeper issue, because he said, why should we wait for institutions? And it's actually a valid point. As much as it's funny, it does, again, expose a certain hypocrisy in this entire movement. Now, of course, Robin DiAngelo released a statement because she's deeply humiliated, along with everybody else who appeared in this. As part of her statement, can you take that off?
Oh, yeah.
Back in 2023, I was contacted by a group who claimed to be making a documentary film called Shades of Justice about efforts to address racism in the United States. They plan to interview anti-racist activists, authors, and thought leaders in service of supporting the cause of racial equity. They offered me between $10,000 and $20,000 for an interview. I said, let's meet in the middle with $15,000, and agreed to participate. I have since donated that sum to the NAACP Legal Defense Fund. When I arrived for the interview, a few things.
Why don't you take the 20 if you were donating it?
Well, no. I mean, she's saying she donated it after she found out that
she was
gone.
Okay, so then why not 10? Let's meet in the middle.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, this is they get paid, these trainers.
Oh, it's
I
huge
think
money. Yeah.
they get paid like $2,000 an hour.
Yeah, it's huge.
These
money,
trainers. When I arrived for the interview, a few things felt off. The grips would not make eye contact with me, and the interviewer, who was introduced as Matt, appeared to be wearing an ill-fitting wig. Matt presented himself as someone new to anti-racist work and seemed earnest, and his questions did not come across as adversarial. By the end, however, things got weird. Matt asked what I thought about reparations for Black Americans. I said that I agreed with reparations, but that it was not my area of expertise. He then pulled up a chair and invited a Black crew member who went by Ben to sit with us, took out his wallet, and handed Ben some cash. He said that if I believed in reparations, I should also give Ben cash. While some Black people have asked white people to engage in reparations by giving directly to individuals, reparations are generally understood as a systemic approach to past and current injustice. The way Matt set this up felt intended to put Ben and I on the spot. Because Matt was pushing this on us, I expressed my discomfort and checked in with Ben to be sure he was okay with receiving cash in this way. Ben reassured me that he was, so I went to my wallet and handed him my cash, and the interview ended. Now, I don't want to spoil the whole movie, but there's other things that go on in that scene that are fucking hilarious. Really, really, really funny. So his kind of closing is he paid people off Craigslist to come to his racial training. And some of the funniest stuff in the movie is in that. So I took a couple of screenshots. So just that alone, the chart he's showing them racism is not binary. And the shades of racism. And he makes everyone in the room, he has a chart from 1 to 10 and makes them put up a marker of where they are on the racism scale. And he wheels in this guy in a white beater, claiming it's his Uncle Frank who told a racist joke 20 years ago, and he tells the joke and berates him. And hey, not to digress too much, but if you want to know why I'm skeptical of collectivist kind of efforts, it's because it is so easy to get people to go along with anything if they feel like it's what the group wants to go along with. So Walsh, with his very clever, sharp comic mind, set up a situation where if you're a reasonable person, bringing in an old man in a wheelchair to berate him for a joke he made about Mexicans 20 years ago is ridiculous. But after he berates him, Uncle Frank, I haven't been able to, there's not one day I have not thought about that. He gets other people in the room to go, fuck you, Uncle Frank, like that. That's how easy it is to get people to do something that is obviously horrible. There's like an old man in a wheelchair. Really? That's how easy it is to goad you into cursing this guy out for making a crude joke 20 years ago. So he makes his point pretty well there. So yeah, it was a very good movie. I thought his final message was actually something I would wholly agree with, even though I don't agree with Matt Walsh on many other things. As cliche as it might sound, yeah, we're never going to have a perfect society, but loving each other is the answer. It really is. It really is the only answer. Now, that does not mean that there shouldn't be remediation, that there shouldn't be reform, which based on his interview with Jimmy, I don't think he would really support in regards to the carceral state. I'm not trying to sweep all that under the rug. Again, I'm not one of those who dismisses the idea of institutionalized racism. I just think these people are grifting off it. I don't think they're trying to solve it. That has always been my exception. But when you get into a lot of their core philosophy, it seems designed to make the problem worse. You look at that Martin Luther King message, which one of the people that he has, and that's in the trailer, he says, well, MLK, said we should judge each other by the content of our character. And they know they have to get around MLK to teach what they're teaching. She goes, yeah, well, Martin Luther King said a lot of things. Okay. Well, do you see this tactic as making race relations better or worse? Because I will tell you, as much as we don't like Barack Obama around these parts, the Barack Obama presidency is a result of Martin Luther King's ideas penetrating enough of society to get a black man elected. This stuff has only created, it's almost like we were going in a good direction and it sent everything spinning backward in a lot of respects. So look, I mean, I think there's on the part of Matt Walsh personally and the politics he represents generally, there's a willful blindness to the realities of real racism and real oppression and real problems that we still have in our culture. But him pointing out that this is not the way to solve them, he did that brilliantly with this film. And whatever your politics, I would highly recommend it for that reason.
Well, I don't know. I didn't see the movie. But I mean, it sounds like more, a skewering of this PMC grifter class, which I see as totally detached from racism and anti-racism. I mean, it's just a wrestling show. And I never had any attachment to academia. I always thought all of academia was a cult. It was all a grift from top to bottom, and they're just part of it. But I would have to say, and like I said, I have not seen the movie. I think to view racism as how we feel about each other, whether we like each other or don't like each other, is not quite the most productive way to look at that. Like, yeah, no, racism is the fact that black people had to do hard time for crack cocaine and white people got off with a slap on the wrist for powder cocaine. That's what racism is, to the extent that most black people I know give a shit about it.
Exactly.
My first girlfriend was half black, and so I had a little bit more insight than the average person into like the way black people cared about how white people viewed them. The black people I knew didn't give a shit if white people liked them or didn't like them in the privacy of their own home. They cared about how they were treated not only by individuals, but how they were treated in the society, right? So we had black neighbors who basically lived in our backyard growing up. I grew up in a white suburb, and when my parents bought the house, there was this plot of land in back of the house that they didn't buy when they bought the property. And so a black couple bought it, built a house on it, and they lived right next to us, same size house as us, same class as us, same everything. And every once in a while, when my black neighbor was driving home through the white suburb, he'd get pulled over by a cop for no reason, no taillight, nothing. License, registration. Okay, what are you doing? I'm going home. Check the address on my license. You'll see where I'm going. Oh, okay, good. You're free to go. Only reason he stopped is because that's what I think black people mind. And that's what they mean when they talk about racism. They don't talk about, in Matt Walsh's heart, he doesn't harbor any resentment towards us. Okay, well, that's kind of meaningless in real life. As it pertains to like how people actually live and how people are able to function. And
yes, go on.
No, and so I think just on one level, giving Robin DiAngelo and I know he's not giving her respect. And look, these people are worth skewering because they deserve it. How many of these anti-racist academics, these DEI champions, have had one word to say about what's going on now post October 7th about Israel, Gaza? Anything? Any of these anti-racists have a word to say about the genocide?
Too many of the people who pay them
Gaza?
would be pissed off about it.
Exactly, because they couldn't get a gig anymore. So yeah, they've had it coming, and that's fine. And it seems like this is fairly funny movie, and so that's all fine. But I do think to say that because we went into this biker bar and asked people if they see color and they said no, which is not all that surprising that they would say no, that means racism isn't as big a problem as people think it is. I think that is intentionally not only reductive, but probably deceptive. And given Matt Walsh's politics, I would say it's more the latter because he is a pretty smart person.
As I said, you could certainly find people who don't like, is that selective who he decided to put in the movie? Obviously. But given that the narrative is so much in the other direction in the mainstream media, that's why I say I'll give that a pass. Because, it's to show the deplorables not being portrayed that way. I think it has value as a counterbalancing narrative, given that the dominant narrative is so much in the other direction. So does he really need to go in that direction? I mean, that's kind of the point. He's showing another way of looking at it, or another dimension to people that you would normally get in the corporate media narrative. And also with Robin DiAngelo, this is what always strikes me when I read her observations, and she does it here too. It very much strikes you, if you don't have these hangups, as she's built a career around projecting her own racial hangups onto all white people. She starts talking about, if I go into a supermarket and there are black people there, I'm going to be conscious of there being black people there. Well, maybe you're a fucking racist. Like, maybe that's your whole career. And this always struck me, being a native New Yorker, when I would see these people who, it was before they even really had the phrase, but when I was doing theater, you'd have all these white kids who came from these chalk white, lily white towns who wanted to talk all about diversity, but they were so very much like Robin DiAngelo. They were as squirmy and awkward around non-white people as you could imagine in their efforts to like not be a racist. Whereas if you grow up in a diverse place, this is not top of mind with you all the time. If you grow up with people from all around the world, you're not walking around. There's a black person in the supermarket. No, you're really not. I live in fucking Harlem. What do you think? Every time I walk out of my house, I'm like, black person, black person. Like, it's insane what she's saying, but I think it appeals to people of her class because people who are paying her tens of thousands of dollars to tell them this shit probably have similar hangups.
Well, yeah, look, I grew up, I mean, the greater area that I grew up in and worked in and went to school in was a third black, a third brown, a third white. And so every workplace, you know, when I was a young guy, or even when I was not so young, even when I was, I worked UPS warehouse when I was 33, right? You know, so like every job I had, the workforce was extremely diverse. Some of the stupid jobs made you sit through the diversity training PowerPoint thing. Some didn't. There was absolutely zero difference in how we got along with each other, how we interacted with it. Absolutely zero. It is a giant money suck. That's all it is. Yeah. And so, yeah, I mean, give the people who run that and profit off that what's coming to them. Like I said, I'm hamstrung by what I can say because I didn't see the movie. And so we already know what people think about us opining without watching the entirety of a certain piece of content. Yes. So I'm hamstrung as to what I could say. But that's the impression I get. I get the impression, based on his politics and based on what you're saying, that, yes, I mean, it seems to be a well-executed skewering of these professional class grifters, but I would be curious to see if it conflates, if it reduces the issue of racism down to that. Because, and this is the danger of people like Kendi and D'Angelo, because they're so ridiculous, they make concerns about racism look ridiculous. And he seems like the kind of person who would capitalize on that and try to make the point that, see, you really don't have to worry about racism all that much because Robin DiAngelo is a grifter. That's a logical leap that I would posit he makes. Again, I don't know. Don't come at me. I'm not saying it for sure. I'm asking. Russell saw it. I didn't. That's all.
I mean, he doesn't go as far as to really articulate a point of view like that. He's certainly making a case for MLK's a restoration of the colorblind society. He's certainly making a case for, let's go back to content of our character and just love each other and
but MLK
deal with each other as people.
MLK realized that was impossible without a dismantling, frankly, ultimately, of militarism and of capitalism.
Yeah, you're not going to get that from him.
You're not going to get that. So then that's really not the MLK's vision. That's what I mean. You're reducing MLK's vision to let's all love each other.
Well, everybody does, right?
And that's why nobody
ever talks about the Poor People's Campaign or the later parts of his career as anti-militarism. They only talk about the parts that they like. But I'm saying, insofar as the film is focused on anti-racism, it's basically arguing, yeah, we need to get away from that and get back to this, which is true as far as it goes. That's why I'm saying, like, I don't think you're going to watch this movie as somebody on the left, if you're kind of anti-woke left, and feel like he's slipping in these other messages. That's what I mean. He doesn't really address that. Like, he's just talking about this.
Yes.
And on the level he's just talking about this, it was inoffensive on that level. Because he doesn't really go there. He doesn't really get into that.
All right. Well, I guess that wraps that. And Janice, because Steinware interview comment section is worth reading. Their viewers called their lack of professionalism out pretty consistently, many stating they are now voting for Stein. That's right. That's right. I did hear that their comment section kind of rebelled against them.
Did it?
See, that's a good kind of ratio. We like those kinds. All right. Ernest Dowson, thanks for the $20.
What, on X or on
No,
YouTube?
on YouTube. I guess on the clips. I guess they clipped them.
I
Ernest Dowson, thanks for the $20. Dylan also said it is not he or she nor them that belonged to. Of course, he was much older then. It is not he or she or them or it that you belong to. What song was that? I don't remember that. I don't remember that lyric.
Is that from You Better Serve Somebody? Is that it?
That sounds like it would be
because
from,
I never got into that song. It's well past his creative
it's
prime.
A very boring song.
That song sucked. Yeah.
That sounds like
he was well past his prime by then.
This sounds like that's from It's All Right Ma, It's Only Bleeding, if I had to guess. But he wasn't old at that point. Hillary Hinton, it sure would be a shame if South Africa accidentally fell out of a window or got itself hit by a train. Yeah, that's the tone of that letter. Thank you for that. Ken Texican, thanks for the $50. Appreciate it, my friend. Let's get another cowbell for Ken Texican. Please connect me to your screenplay indie film contact on this question of genocide. I have the beginning of a script that Russ and Keaton could nail as producers, developers with a big name actor. Wow, that sounds fun. Hey, well, you got our email, dudissidents@gmail.com. Send it over. We're taking submissions. dudissidents@gmail.com, everybody. All right, let's take a quick pause here to plug Rumble Premium. This is an important one, folks. So this is a sponsorship from Rumble, and it's one that's incredibly important to the survival of the company. So when Rumble first started in 2013, they built the platform for the small creator. They didn't censor or have biases. They were fair and treated all creators equally. No one thought platforms would censor political conversation or opinions on COVID, but they did. Facebook admitted they fell to pressure, from the Biden and Harris administration in a letter that Mark Zuckerberg wrote a few weeks ago. Rumble did not cave to this pressure. They held the line for free speech, and they're attacked daily for giving creators like us a voice to talk to audiences like you. They're attacked in corporate media. They're attacked by governments like France. They're attacked from brand advertisers who refuse to work with them. So corporate America is fighting to remove speech, and Rumble is fighting to keep it. Simple as that. Rumble won't survive with brand advertisers because they don't get much of them. So watching our show on Rumble is the most they can ask from you. But if you really believe in this fight and you have the means, one major way you can help Rumble survive is by joining Rumble Premium. So join the community that believes in the First Amendment and believes in our human right to free speech. Rumble is offering $10 off with the promo code STUDIO when you purchase an annual subscription. So go to rumble.com/premium and use promo code STUDIO. Like I said, if you have the means and believe in the cause, now is the time to join Rumble Premium. If you don't have the means, we are just happy if you watch us on the platform. All right, beautiful. Okay, we got a couple more pieces to go, but we got some super chats to go here. Peter Monahan, yeah, I grew up in California during the 60s to 90s. They hit us with park for weed malathion for the fruit flies. I don't know how to pronounce that word. And the DDT for the mosquitoes. Probably why I got cancer. Oh yeah, well that's, you think about that. Yeah, that is a scary thought, but could be true. You see, Miller, thanks for the $10. I am happy that Jill and Cornell are on Virginia ballot now. I will go with Jill, but I really don't know much about the local candidates. I wish progressives had a website we can get info about them. Thank you, Yasim. Sparky, thanks for the $10. Trump was lucky the many cat, dog, geese, and duck memes offset the bringing up the pet eating issue in the debate. Kamala had an interview since the debate where she was back to her vacuous self. Thank you, Sparky. Gooey Loves Stew, thanks for the $5. Apparently there was a second assassination attempt on Trump on his golf course, according to my mother. Have you heard anything about it? Yes, we covered it at the beginning of the show, and we're going to look for an update during the Rumble break, where we're going to switch over to Rumble fairly soon. So we have heard about it, yes. And if you go back to the beginning, you'll see some brief coverage of the latest at the time. Peter Monahan, thanks for the $5. Sent you guys my contact info. Perfect. Thank you, Peter. Appreciate that. Leon Scott, thanks for the $5. If Trump were president, then liberals would be marching against genocide right now. So net value, Trump is better off for the anti-war movement. Artie Blarty Fart Blast, thanks for the $7.99.
Would they though? Yeah, you don't remember tonight's the night he became president.
He became president.
When he bombed Syria.
That's right. Artie Blarty Fart Blast, thanks for the $7.99. Love Nerdrotics, war against state woke, but could someone explain to Gary that Bob Iger is not a Marxist?
You know, we did something about this a long time ago. I showed a clip from a panel discussion that Gary was on, where they were looking at the Indiana Jones monstrosity. When they had this whole exchange where Phoebe Waller-Bridge says, that's capitalism. I stole it from him. That's capitalism. They start talking about the woke and the socialists and the Marxists. And I said, you see, these guys have this very working class sensibility, but because the liberal class present themselves as the left, they think they hate the
right.
left.
Yeah, they think right, exactly. They think that's communism.
Yeah.
Ficus, thanks for the $1.99. Appreciate that. Cosmos, thanks for the $10. Vote for Jill Stein means no corporations money involved. Yay, go Dr. Jill Butch Ware. Thank you, Cosmos. Appreciate that. Ryan Spence, thanks for the $5 Canadian. Didn't get much press outside of Canada, but a Russian CDN filmmaker, Canadian, made a doc named Russians at War, played at Toronto Film Festival about disillusionment of the war. Yeah, that Toronto Film Festival is going on right now, isn't it? Don't they do that one in September? Thank you for that. Andres Torres, thank you for the $4.99. AMLO just signed judicial reform in Mexico. The people will now be able to vote on Supreme Court judges. Viva Mexico! Hey, we covered the preamble to that, the prelude to that a couple weeks ago. So maybe we'll do that on Tuesday. Okay, let's see here. Let's go to. Oops, sorry, what happened here? Did I skip there? Okay. All right. Joe B, thanks for the $5. As a longtime JD fan, shamed how much of his audience eats up Trump's bombast. They're being led back into the duopoly. Just read the comments section. I mean, that was somewhat true of our comment section, too. I think that's true of a lot of people in this space who, because Biden's in power and Biden's funding the genocide and Biden's cracking down on free speech, you attract a lot of people. When you criticize Biden, you attract a lot of people who are attracted to Trump. And we ran into that as well. Yeah.
So, as we all saw.
Khalid Smati, thanks for the $20. Keep up the good work, Russell and Keaton. You guys are the definition of realism. Thank you for that. Appreciate that very much. Okay, let's move on, folks. Got some more show to go. So I want to do more about the Haitian migrants and about the cats and the dogs, because the cats and the dogs and the geese and the ducks are getting all of the news, but there has been, not the greatest amount nor the greatest quality of information about the migrants, how they got to Springfield, and what has gone on before and since the viral debate moment. So here's a pretty informative piece here. Why thousands of Haitians have settled in Springfield, Ohio. So this just gives some good background. Over the last few years, many immigrants from Haiti have settled in Springfield, Ohio, drawn by the low cost of living and plentiful jobs. But the pace and volume of Haitian newcomers have strained local resources and stirred some tensions. And now, ahead of the presidential election, the city has found itself caught up in the fiery debate over immigration. J.D. Vance, the Republican nominee for vice president, invoked Springfield in July to criticize the Biden administration's border policies. That month, the city's mayor and manager went on the cable news program Fox and Friends, calling for assistance to handle an influx that they blamed on the federal government. Then, during the presidential debate last week, former President Donald Trump repeated a debunked claim about Haitians in Springfield abducting and eating household pets. Oh, what a country. What's behind the rise of Haitians in Springfield? So this breaks it down here. Thousands of new jobs had been created there thanks to a successful effort by the city's leadership and Chamber of Commerce to attract new business to Springfield, which sits between Columbus and Dayton. Once a manufacturing hub, Springfield saw its economy shrink after factories closed and jobs migrated overseas. By about 2015, its population had dwindled to under 60,000 from about 80,000 in the late 1960s and early 70s. Companies that set up shop, however, confronted a dire labor shortage. So Haitians in Florida, Haiti, and South America heard from friends and family about Springfield and its need for workers. They began arriving to take jobs in warehouses, manufacturing, and the service sector, and employers urged the new workers to encourage other Haitians to join them. What started as a trickle swelled to a surge after the COVID pandemic, coinciding with deepening political and economic instability in Haiti after the assassination of the president in 2021. So how did the immigrants in Springfield arrive in the U.S. and with what status? So this is another thing because they, obviously we've heard the word illegal bandied about. These immigrants here, these Haitians in Springfield are actually not illegal, at least most of them. So most Haitians in Springfield are in the United States legally, city officials said. Some of the Haitians in Springfield have lived in the United States for many years and have permanent legal status or green cards. Some crossed the southern border or flew directly to the United States over the last few years. Many are beneficiaries of temporary protected status, a federal designation that gives nationals of a country in crisis, typically after a natural disaster or political upheaval, the opportunity to remain in the United States legally, regardless of whether they entered the country lawfully. The Biden administration granted temporary protected status through February 3rd, 2026 for Haitians who arrived in the United States on or before June 3rd, 2024, and that status can be renewed. Haiti is one of a number of countries whose nationals can qualify for TPS, including Ukraine, which was invaded by Russia and is at war. Some of the Haitians in Springfield have applied for asylum, which allows them to remain in the country until their case has been adjudicated by immigration authorities. Still, others have been aided by a Biden administration initiative that enables people from Haiti who have a financial sponsor in the United States to apply to enter the country and remain here legally for 2 years. They do not receive green cards. The various programs made many of the Haitian newcomers to Springfield eligible to work legally, making them particularly attractive to employers. People covered by temporary protective status are entitled by law to receive health and nutrition benefits, as well as other public benefits, such as food stamps. Okay, so, pardon me. Still getting over a cold, so around the 3-hour mark, the voice needs a little bit of lubricant there. Excuse me. So here's a tweet here from J.B. Hassenpfeffer. The American citizens of Springfield are also getting replaced by the illegals at their jobs. This man wants to have all illegals working at his factory. Okay, so once again, that tweet notwithstanding, we just read what their actual status are. But here is a video that will show you guys.
These are not illegal immigrants.
They're not illegal immigrants. But here's a video that will show you that gets more into the situation at this particular factory and talks a little bit about the town more broadly.
He came to Springfield for the same reason. Mirsu says he came to Springfield for the same reason most Haitians did. He heard that housing was cheap and jobs were plentiful.
What started slowly, we had an application pool that was a little bit different.
People coming to work here.
People looking for jobs. What he's welding here again are welded axle components.
Jamie McGregor is the CEO of McGregor Metal, which makes welded parts for the auto and farm industries. Right now, about 10% of his workforce is Haitian, over 30 employees.
I wish I had 30 more. Our Haitian associates come to work every day. They don't have a drug problem. They'll stay at their machine. They'll achieve their numbers. They are here to work. And so in general, that's a stark difference from what we're used to in our community.
McGregor acknowledges the sudden arrival of so many new immigrants is a challenge on multiple fronts, but he believes this is partly how the industrial Midwest can regrow.
We want more jobs in our community, and in order to fill those jobs, some jobs need to be people who are not originally from here.
Now, why? The answer is because you don't want to pay well. That's why.
This fella.
That's why.
He channels Papa Legba, works 7 days straight.
Right. Right. I mean, he's saying we need, we couldn't keep these jobs filled. Now Haitians come here and they work the jobs and they do a better job. Well, that's because you're not paying enough. You're not paying enough. And so I wanted to play that, and we'll play more of this. But this kind of paints a picture of the reasons why the town is under some stress here, not only from a labor standpoint, which according to this guy, he couldn't get the jobs filled at a low wage, but that begs the question, why not? Right. And if you couldn't depend on immigrant labor, would you have to pay more? Right. That's a fair question for residents of the town to ask. And then from an infrastructure standpoint, which we'll get to in a couple minutes, but go ahead.
Yeah, well, this has always been my theory about this. We don't give a shit about people around the world. We mass murder them constantly and back regimes that mass murder them daily. So the idea that we let all of these immigrants into the country because we care about them, that's absurd on its face. On its face. You don't care enough about them not to murder them en masse, but you care enough about them to bring them into the country.
Especially Haitians. Look what we've done to Haiti as a country.
Look what we've done
been torturing Haiti. We've been
torturing
Haiti. Yeah.
We want the cheap labor. The purpose, and it is not the fault of these immigrants. They are victims of the same system. They are victims of the same capitalist equations and machinations. But have they been sent there for that very purpose? Yeah, I believe that. I have always said, you cannot tell me we have, what is it, the largest army compared to the next 11 armies combined would equal the size of our army. You cannot tell me we can't close that border. You cannot tell me with an executive order we do not have the manpower in our military to secure the southern border. So why is that being allowed? Why are thousands of people being allowed into the country? It's not a coincidence, in my opinion, that as soon as labor started to recover its lost organizing skills, they're trying to destabilize the labor market under the guise of humanitarianism. And again, this is not the fault of these people. They are victims of the same people that the American workers are a victim of and the games that they're playing. And in a way, this is adding insult to injury, because why are these workers all fucked up on drugs? Why is that a problem? Because you devastated.
You mean the Springfield? You mean the American workers, right?
The American workers. Why? Because you have devastated that entire part of the country and made people so hopeless, in such a state of despair, that what happens in poor communities in despair, they turn to drugs.
Well, yeah. Well, then, you also allowed the Sackler family to come in and sell them what, 80 milligram heroin pills, basically.
Exactly. And then, so now that they're broken, you're just going to throw out your old toys and bring in new toys that work harder, faster, and cheaper, who don't have these problems. You know, it's it's horrible. It's horrible for everybody involved.
Yep. All right. So we got a little more of this video, and then we got more.
There's things in the last 5 years that have really changed and has been a forward improvement for Springfield, but this is taxing the resources of the city. Well, afterwards.
Springfield's mayor, Rob Rue, says he was cautiously optimistic when the first Haitians settled in town, but then their numbers quickly rose. The city estimates 12 to 15,000 Haitians are here now.
The infrastructure of the city, our safety forces, our hospitals, our schools. Springfield is a close community and has a big heart, but at the same point, we've had this influx that has taxed all these services.
The number of students needing English language help has quadrupled in 5 years. Translators at the local health center cost hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. And last year was the busiest year on record for the fire department. But it seemed that for the community at large, the increase in immigration and its stresses largely flew under the radar.
A lot of that changed last August. It was the very first day of school, and a school bus full of kids was coming down this road. A driver coming in the other direction came around that bend, said he was blinded by the sun. He clipped the bus, and the bus ended up in this ditch.
We begin with breaking news. Right now, multiple law enforcement agencies are on the scene of a deadly school bus crash.
Dozens of children were injured, and 11-year-old Aiden Clark died. When the driver was revealed to be a Haitian immigrant without a U.S. license, things erupted.
The majority of the Haitians here are low-skilled, and they're illiterate.
I want to know who's busing them in, who's responsible for that, and who can stop them from coming.
Our concerns don't have anything to do with racism. They have to do with lack of affordable housing.
For the past few months, Springfield resident and former journalist William Monaghan has been a fixture at City Commission meetings. He helps run a Facebook group that's become a clearinghouse for locals' concerns about the Haitians, where people complain about everything from reckless driving to higher rents.
Do you shop in Springfield? No. Do you drive the streets of Springfield? No. Do you consider that Springfield is your home? No. Are your kids safe in school? No.
They're talking about, I got kicked out of my house because the rent went way up. My insurance has gone way up. I don't feel safe in the stores anymore. With maybe a couple exceptions, it's never a race issue. But they want to make it sound like a racial issue so they can demonize us and ignore our concerns. But these are valid concerns.
Okay, so we don't have to watch the entire thing. You get the picture there. So what the mayor says there is that, yes, the influx of migrants, which, now, as I understand, if the math is correct, if the population was reduced to 60,000 and there are between 12 and 15,000 migrants, that's you're talking about adding 20 to 25% of the population of the city. Migrants putting a strain on, ESL programs in the schools, just general infrastructure, right? Any population boom of that size is going to put a certain strain on the infrastructure. And he said it more or less went under the radar. And then there was this shocking, horrible event that galvanized people who then started noticing more some of these problems because they were more animated to look into it. I think that's a pretty fair categorization of what he said. And so part of why we wanted to show you that is because we don't want this segment to come off as being dismissive of the legitimacy of some underlying concerns of the community. However, when you look at this dogs and cats and geese and ducks thing, this is just another example on a shallow level of Donald Trump turning what could have been a slam dunk issue for him. Just watch that video. This is communities like this are tailor-made for him to come in here with his immigration message, and turned it into an absolute sideshow. And on a more substantial level, this has gotten ugly quick. So it just exploded. Springfield woman claims she never meant to spark false rumors about Haitians. So now the woman, her name is Erica Lee, who wrote the original Facebook post, which went viral, is saying she didn't expect it to go viral and she didn't mean it. The woman behind an early Facebook post spreading a harmful and baseless claim about Haitian immigrants eating local pets that helped thrust a small Ohio city into the national spotlight says she had no firsthand knowledge of any such incident and is now filled with regret and fear as a result of the ensuing fallout. It just exploded into something I didn't mean to happen, Erica Lee, a Springfield resident, told NBC News on Friday. Lee recently posted on Facebook about a neighbor's cat that went missing, adding that the neighbor told Lee she thought the cat was a victim of an attack by her Haitian neighbors. Like NewsGuard.
Back on the menu, boys.
Yeah, I didn't know that was gone today. You surprised me with that one. NewsGuard, a media watchdog that monitors for misinformation online, found that Lee had been among the first people to publish a post to social media about the rumor, screenshots of which circulated online. The neighbor, Kimberly Newton, said she heard about the attack from a third party, NewsGuard reported. Newton told NewsGuard that Lee's Facebook post misstated her story and that the owner of the missing cat was an acquaintance of a friend rather than her daughter's friend. Newton could not be reached for comment. Lee said she had no idea the post would become part of a rumor mill that would spiral into the national consciousness. She has since deleted the Facebook post. Lee said she never imagined her post would become fodder for conspiracy theories and hate. I'm not a racist, she said, through heavy emotion, adding that her daughter is half black and she herself is mixed race and a member of the LGBTQ community. It's all right, go see Matt Walsh's movie. You'll feel better. Your mind will be at ease. Everybody seems to be turning it into that, and that was not my intent. The anti-immigrant fervor in Springfield led to school and municipal building closures on Thursday and Friday after city officials received, bomb threats. So here it is on Thursday from the Columbus Dispatch. Springfield City Hall Elementary School evacuated after bomb threat, city says. The next day, September 13th, 2 Springfield public schools evacuated, 1 closed due to bomb threats. And then on Saturday, more bomb threats hit Springfield, Ohio, after Trump elevates false claims about Haitians. 2 hospitals sent into lockdown, government buildings shut down, and local schools evacuated. So The Guardian reports this. 2 hospitals in Springfield, Ohio, were sent into lockdown after bomb threats, police said on Saturday, marking the fourth such case in as many days that appears linked to false claims circulating about among the far right, that Haitian immigrants there are eating domestic pets and wildlife. Saturday's threats came even after the woman who started the rumors acknowledged to NBC News that they were unfounded and publicly apologized. Kettering Health Springfield was one of the medical facilities targeted, with officials later saying they found nothing suspicious during a search. Another hospital, Mercy Health Springfield Regional Medical Center, received a similar threat. A spokesperson with Mercy Health said the hospital had continued to operate and thanked Springfield police as well as hospital staff for their swift, efficient, and caring response. The bomb threats on Saturday came after others had been called into government buildings. The bomb threats on Saturday came after others had been called into government buildings Thursday, forcing their closure and causing local schools to be evacuated. Quote, "We recognize that the past few days have been particularly challenging for everyone in our community," Springfield police said in a statement. Police added, "We remain fully committed to ensuring the safety and well-being of each and every person." So, okay, we started this segment by, yes, acknowledging the increase in the migrant population has put a strain on social services, including schools and hospitals. Well, you know what also puts a strain on schools and hospitals? Bomb threats. You know what really destabilizes a community more than immigration? Lunatics calling in bomb threats because of bullshit they read online and that Donald Trump repeated on the biggest stage in the country. So you think maybe Donald Trump would want to clean this up a bit, and he's asked to condemn the bomb threats so that maybe they'll stop. Here's his answer.
Announced the bomb threats in Springfield, Ohio?
I don't know what happened with the bomb threats. I know that it's been taken over by illegal migrants, and that's a terrible thing that happened. Springfield was this beautiful town, and now they're going through hell.
Quite the answer to that question. Let me play that one more time.
Did you announce the bomb threats in Springfield, Ohio?
I don't know what happened with the bomb threats. I know that it's been taken over by illegal migrants, and that's a terrible thing that happened. Springfield was this beautiful town, and now they're going through hell. Cat was named Vagina.
We're supposed to believe that Donald Trump has the best interest of Springfield, Ohio at heart. You take a place that could not be more tailor-made for your campaign message. You turn it into a sideshow with your bullshit. Now there are bomb threats. You're asked to condemn the bomb threats. Hey, let's not call in bomb threats to schools and hospitals. That's the answer that you give. I want to feature this tweet by Kim Iverson. I did think this was a tweet worth sending because this is kind of a big moment now as the election approaches. We've been talking about how we are on neither side, and neither side, yes, to clarify, means neither side. This is another reason Trump will likely now lose, she writes. It's a flat-out lie that the Haitian immigrants are illegal, correct? People are not interested in hate towards immigrants, nor cat ladies for that matter, correct? Life is hard for immigrants with inflation. Life is hard for Americans, with inflation and cost of housing and wars. But what won't win votes is negativity and hate. People actually are looking for joy, which is why Kamala, with zero ideas and no leadership skills, is gaining voters simply by using it as a slogan and by not being hateful. This comment by Trump is disgusting and dangerous, and I rarely say that because Dems are constantly claiming every little thing he says is dangerous. This time it is. He deserves to lose votes for this. I endorse every word of that tweet. Every word. Now, let's keep going because J.D. Vance appeared on TV this morning. It is Sunday morning, after all. And here he is saying that he had to, quote, create the story of cats and dogs in order to highlight this issue.
Once and for all,
you again started this in part by saying that, which Donald Trump repeated on the debate stage, that, and he didn't say anything about the policies that you're talking about. He just said Haitians are eating dogs and cats. Can you affirmatively say now that that is a rumor that has no basis with evidence?
Dana, the evidence is the first-hand account of my constituents who are telling me that this happened. And by the way, I've been trying to talk about the problems in Springfield for months, and the American media ignored it. There was a congressional hearing just last week of angel moms who lost children because Kamala Harris let criminal migrants into this country who then murdered their children. The American media totally ignored this stuff until Donald Trump and I started talking about cat memes. If I have to,
But it wasn't just a meme,
create stories so that the American media actually pays attention to the suffering of the American people, then that's what I'm going to do, Dana, because you guys are completely letting Kamala Harris coast.
So he said, if I have to create what, cat memes?
The American media totally ignored this stuff until Donald Trump and I started talking about cat memes. If I have to,
But it
if
wasn't
I have
just a
to
meme,
create stories so that the American media actually pays attention to the suffering of the American people, then that's what I'm going to do, Dana, because you guys are completely letting Kamala Harris coast. You had one interview with her. You talk about pushing back against me, Dana. You didn't push back against the fact that she cast the deciding vote on the Inflation Reduction Act, which is why a lot of Americans can't afford food and housing.
You just said
We
that
ought
you're
to be
creating
talking
a
about
story.
public policy.
Sorry, you just said that you're
We didn't
creating the
freeze heat,
story.
What's that, Dana?
You just said that this is a
We're still
story
waiting,
that you
folks. Yes.
created. So the eating dogs and cats thing is not.
We are
accurate.
creating. Dana, it comes from firsthand accounts from my constituents. I say that we're creating a story, meaning we're creating the American media focusing on it. I didn't create 20,000 illegal migrants coming into Springfield thanks to Kamala Harris's policies. Her policies did that, but yes, we created the actual focus that allowed the American media to talk about this story and the suffering caused by Kamala Harris's policies.
You know, it's easy to call. First of all, what an A-list talent this guy is, proving it every day. I don't know by firsthand accounts. Is he talking about the Facebook post? Because this is what people say. Well, everybody in Springfield knows someone who said they saw it. Well, this post went viral. So, yeah, I mean, everybody in Springfield knows about that post. That doesn't mean everybody in Springfield knows someone who they suspect has an abducted cat at the hands of their Haitian migrant neighbor. I've said a lot. Anything on this?
That was quite a pick. That was quite a pick on Trump's part.
Quite a pick.
That was crazy talk, us saying that he sucked.
Right. Yeah.
He should have gone for Tulsi. That was what the best VP pick ever. Best VP pick since Dan Quayle.
Yeah.
Head and shoulders over Dan Quayle.
Yeah. So this is just the latest in a pattern that has been going on for the past couple of months now, where every single opportunity the Trump campaign has had to turn a W into an L, they have done it every single time. This is your issue. You, if you're the Trump campaign, for better or worse, you own this issue, immigration. And you have now turned the conversation on immigration into this, where you say they're stealing people's cats and eating them, to the point where now you have bombs. The town is in more chaos now than it was with the migrants. Like the town is a time. They said this town in the Charlie Kirk investigation. The guy says this town is a bomb waiting to blow. Now it's literally a bomb waiting to blow. Like, you have brought more chaos, and more fear, and I would argue probably more dread to this town than existed before, when all you had to do, why don't you go there and do a rally at one of the hospitals that are being overtaxed, if you want to make that point, right? And look, I'm not an expert on the issue. Like I said, I don't think there are any real solutions to this issue, so that's fine. But I'm saying, if you're the Trump campaign, there are ways to make this argument. This is dead last on the list. Just yet another in a series of unforced errors. And, you know, it's ironic that the news out of South Florida today is what it was, because I was thinking today, and when I posted something, which I'll get to later, a lot of people responded, Is he trying to throw it? Is he trying to throw it? After the first assassination, did he say, look, just leave me alone. I'll throw the election. Have Kamala pardon me. Because this is just, it is bizarre. I've never seen a more self-destructive campaign than this. And the Democrats are so awful, and Kamala is so awful, that he still has a 50-50 chance at winning.
Yeah, I think this is what people forget. Donald Trump's campaign in 2016 was a chaotic joke. It was a mess. What changed that was he brought in Steve Bannon. Steve Bannon is the reason Donald Trump was elected in 2016. There is no doubt in my mind that if he had allowed Steve Bannon to be his Karl Rove, he would be president right now. He would be finishing his second term. He has no Steve Bannon now. He is not good at this. He wasn't good at it in 2016. He had the advantage of running against literally the most hated politician in the history of polling on the Democrat side of modern polling. There had never been a Democratic nominee that unpopular. And he had Steve Bannon, who actually has a theory of politics, unlike Donald Trump, who is basically a dancing bear. Now the dancing bear's riding around with a busted unicycle and no organ grinder. And this is the result, man. He's, you know, he can perform well if you give him the right message to convey. And if he's got, you know, very smart people, if he actually has very smart people working for him, you know, he's funny. He's got a good, you know, Borscht Belt comedian, Rodney Dangerfield thing going on at his best. At his worst, he just sounds like a fucking crazy drunk. And, you know, without a Steve Bannon, without anybody on that team to really coordinate this, he's gone totally into sounding like a crazy drunk. And yeah, it's not like, oh my God, Donald Trump was always so disciplined and he always ran his campaign so well. He's always been like this. He got very lucky in 2016. He got very lucky. And hey, as you point out, he might get lucky here because he's running against a freaking hologram. He's running against a completely substanceless avatar. So he could still win. As we were discussing earlier, look, man, and I could be wrong. Intellectually, Trump should still win. My gut tells me Kamala's going to win.
Yeah. I mean, I still don't know, but I mean, I'm more conservative in my predictions than you. You're more likely to go out on a limb. But yeah, I mean,
it doesn't mean anything. I can't make a case for that.
It's just the gut. Yeah. Hey, look, I had that gut. I had it in my gut as soon as the first DEI hire meme came out when Kamala became the nominee. I said that. That's why I said that over and over again the first couple weeks. I said, on this trajectory, you are going to blow this. This is the most winnable election of my lifetime. I can't think, I mean, of my adult lifetime. Obviously, Clinton Dole was a landslide. I was 10. Like the most winnable election I've been old enough to understand. By far. This should be nowhere near close. And it is. And it's because of shit like this. And you pull the same thing that you pulled with the David Duke. I don't know anything about David Duke. You pulled that with the bomb threats. They've had bomb threats for 3 days in a row. Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Schools,
in this small town with overtaxed resources.
Yeah, in a small town with that. Like, what do you think causes more instability in that town? Migrant labor, who, like the mayor said, people weren't really conscious of how the system was being overtaxed until a spotlight was shown on it by that tragic bus accident. By the way, the father of the child killed is also saying to Donald Trump, stop using my kid's name, right? So like he has gone in and he has just poured gasoline on this fire. He has not been a calming presence. He has not been a stabilizing presence. He has been the exact opposite. You're turning what should be a lob ball right down the middle into yet another clusterfuck for the campaign. It is just incredible. But wait a minute. Hold on. There's a twist. Christopher Rufo, sleuth journalist Christopher Rufo, published a piece called The Cat Eaters of Ohio on his Substack. So Christopher Rufo says, Donald Trump shocked audiences at this week's presidential debate with the claim that foreign migrants were eating household pets in Springfield, Ohio, a small town currently reeling under the strain of an unprecedented number of new arrivals, mostly from Haiti. They're eating the dogs, Trump said. They're eating the cats. So is there any truth to the charge? We have conducted an exclusive investigation that reveals that, yes, in fact, some migrants in Ohio appear to have been eating the cats, though not exactly in the manner that Trump described. Our investigation begins, don't worry, folks, this is short. Our investigation begins in a rundown neighborhood of Dayton, Ohio, the closest major city to Springfield, about half hour's drive away. We identified a social media post dated August 25th, 2023, with a short video depicting what appear to be two skinned cats on top of a blue barbecue. Yo, the Africans wildin' on Parkwood, reads the text, referring to Parkwood Drive. The video then pans down to two live cats walking across the grass in front of a rundown fence, with a voice on the video warning, there go a cat right there. His ass better get missing, man. Look like his homies on the grill. And there's a picture. I won't show you cats on a grill. I don't know if that's against the rules, but it's certainly in poor taste. But he does attach a video of what are carcasses on a grill with some cats running around in the yard. And he says, we spoke with the author of the video, who asked to remain anonymous, but confirmed its time, location, and authenticity. He told us that he was picking up his son last summer when he noticed the unusual situation. It was some Africans that stay right next door to my kid's mother, he said. This African dude next door had the damn cat on the grill. We then identified the home by matching it to the visuals in the video and cross-referencing them with the eyewitnesses. When we knocked on the door of the first unit, the family answered, telling us they were from the Democratic Republic of the Congo and that all of the surrounding units were occupied by other African migrants. Okay, so you have a year ago, in a town a half an hour away, African migrants, which, I mean, Africa, by the way, folks, just in case your geography is a little fuzzy, Haiti is not a country in Africa. So these are not the same. They're not from the same area. These are African migrants in a town a half hour away 1 year ago. The idea that this proves that the media is covering up Haitian migrants eating people's cats now is just obviously fucking absurd. But now you're going to have your team of alt media incel losers running around Springfield, Ohio, looking for evidence of Haitian cat posses grilling people's pets. Like, this is this would actually be a really funny movie. You could write as a comedy that there's a right-wing conspiracy theory going around, and like the Ben Shapiros and the Matt Walsh, they all go there. They all descend on the town to try and crack the case. They all start interrogating people in supermarkets and knocking on people's doors. They went to this guy's door and knocked on his door. Did you grill a cat 1 year ago here? I mean, it is just so bizarre. But Donald Trump, eager to get back on message today, fired off this banger. So that's the state of the Trump campaign. Now, obviously, this news is a bit obsolete because of the events of the day, which we will get on as soon as we can. But if you notice, even the events of the day didn't make the splash that they did the first time, because people saw what happened after the first time, right? I mean, that really was the turning point of the campaign in a way. We all thought that was going to be what clinched the campaign for him, was that first attempt on his life. It turned out to be every decision since then has been one worse than the next. And it is just really a sight to see. And this is just what a bizarre saga this has been. I mean, this is just like a comical. I mean, this is like, I can't think of the filmmaker or the novelist, but this is just like a twisted, dark, comedic fantasy of what, a far right campaign would devolve into in the closing months, right? Looking around for dead cats in Haitian immigrants' backyards.
Well, it's what a far-right idiocracy campaign would
That's what
descend
okay,
into.
yeah, there you go.
This is, Barry Goldwater ran a far-right campaign, but it didn't end with Haitian barbecue. Or screaming, I hate the Shirelles. This is just insane. It's just insane. I don't see any sign it's going to get better because there's nobody on that team that's going to make it better. They are in the position, they're in a terrible position going into this election. They have very effectively played into the Democrats' contention. They made themselves look weird. They made themselves look weird. And that is not easy when you're running against Kakala over there. No. And you're making yourself look weird because she's playing everything close to the vest. You said this, and I think you're right. They saw that a generic Democrat would beat Trump in the polls, and they said, okay, let's policies.
Yeah.
Let's just
create one.
Yep, that's it. Don't really answer questions in interviews. Make it all about the vibe. Hope and change. It worked for Obama. Exactly. If you actually look at what he said, he didn't really say anything either. He was just better at not saying anything. It was less noticeable. He said nothing in soaring rhetoric. So she can't do the soaring rhetoric, but the country has gone downhill so fast that people will settle for not creeping them out. And hey, when you are creeping people out more than Kamala, man, you've got. I've always said she has a very creepy vibe. She has a very. She always struck me as a sociopath. Her rhythms were always very off in her behavior. But hey, man, they reined her in. They got her in control. They've just totally scripted her, and she's hitting her marks, and that's all she's doing. What they tell her to do, and she's running against the cat people over here. And man. This campaign is so terrible that, this fucking this most unpopular vice president in history could actually win because the normies who do vote in disproportionate numbers are looking at this fucking freak show that Trump is running, and they're not going to vote for that, man. They're not. They're going to be like, all right, well, it'll be more of the same. Okay, fine. I want no part of whatever change that's going to be.
I mean, I think you're right. I agree with that. At this point, it is a mind versus a gut. On paper, the math is still in Trump's favor.
Right. The Muslims voting for Jill Stein.
Yeah,
she could lose Michigan.
It does. I feel a 2022 again. I could feel it has that vibe to me. That it's not going to come.
Well, that's
together
another thing we've seen in 2 elections now. Since in a Dobbs world, abortion is an issue that is overwhelming in a lot of races.
Yeah,
and nobody really fucking believes that this guy won't end up signing whatever they want him to sign.
Whatever they get to his desk is what he'll sign.
Yeah.
Right. You give the Republicans both chambers, he'll sign whatever they get to him. And when you just think about how this whole episode became what it did. Yeah, you had the Facebook post, and then you had J.D. Vance, idiot that he is, tweeted about it, which got it some traction. But they asked Donald Trump at the debate a question about immigration. This is a fastball right down the middle. Kamala Harris was the border czar. She did such a terrible job that she now denies that she was ever the border czar. That's it. You flesh that out with a detail or two, you're done. None of this would have happened if he gave that answer. Instead, he says, they're eating the cats and they're eating the dogs. And now look at this. A week later, this is still the viral story. It's still the viral story, and it's getting worse because the town is worse off now than before he brought it up. The town is in more chaos now than it was before he highlighted the issue.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's going to leave the impression in voters' minds, oh my God, this is what it's going to be like with him as president.
Right.
It's got which it was when he was president. That's what everyone complained about, the constant chaos, reeling from one thing to another. And yeah, man, a lot of that was media created, but not all of it.
Right. Right.
I mean, look at this.
Look at this. Yeah. Look at
Nobody told him to focus the immigration issue on litigating whether Haitians were stealing Fluffy.
Yeah.
Nobody made him do that.
I couldn't believe he said it on the stage. I couldn't believe he went there. Just astounding. All right, folks, we're going to read some super chats and Rumble rants, and then we're going to head over to the Q&A. I will let you guys know when the phone lines are open. Doc Durkin, any chance of sending Russ to D.C. to cover Rescue the Republic event on September 29th? Indeed. One step ahead of you. We get the press pass and everything. Russ will be there.
I am going to be there.
That is going to be a weekend of coverage because there's an anti-war rally in Kingston, New York, which is not far from me, that I'll be at. That is on the Saturday before that rally. And that's got a great speaker list. Max Blumenthal is going to be there. Anya will be there too. Scott Ritter. And then Judge Napolitano, Gerald Salenti. That's going to be fun. So that's going to be quite the weekend, quite the event. We're going to have a lot of coverage for you guys. Miserable Live, Dana Bash was at some BS media event and some lady just eviscerated her right to her face for her complicity and covering for Israel's genocide. Good stuff. Yes, saw that. Thank you. Appreciate that. Back from the road, any take on the Houthis firing a hypersonic missile into Tel Aviv after the IDF dropped the pre-invasion evacuation leaflets on South Lebanon to then walk it back and blame a rogue brigade? I haven't had a chance to look into that. We will almost certainly get to that on Tuesday. But thank you. Sloppy Top 10, right-wing filmmakers purposely do not provide screenings to critics so they can later say the left are censoring them. When New York Times reviewed Sound of Freedom, they had to buy their own ticket.
Yeah, that's not what's happening.
I don't
here.
think
they did an embargo on What Is a Woman, and the movie's been out for days now. That Rotten Tomato screenshot, I took it this morning.
Yeah, and some of these outlets would buy their own ticket, even if they had to.
Yeah, come on, man. No, there's an embargo on this movie.
Bulk 23, are you a racist, Matt Walsh? Do you believe Palestinians to be human beings? You don't? Then yes, you're a racist, Matt Walsh. There gets a good review. You should post that on Rotten Tomatoes. Ken Texican, before I place my wagers at an aqueduct early November, I'll be sure to raise the sipper to those willing to go back to tour guiding or cleaning toilets, then abash pools rather than sell their souls. Thank you, Ken Texican. Appreciate that. Great take, Russell. I agree that this movie was very well done and the message was very positive. Thank you, Eileen Jones. EJ Imagine. Sorry, I don't know if you wanted me to say your name, but I know that's your name. I am the Owl. Thanks for the $2. The U.S. allows its vassals to murder American citizens abroad. Yes, Israel with Eisenhower Ige and Ukraine with Gonzalo Lira.
Yep.
Because they ultimately endorse those extreme methods to silence dissidents. Absolutely. Yep. Caitlin Johnstone, don't talk about politics at the dinner table is hilarious and sick. Dead Palestinian children sold at Costco. Is that her new essay? I will look into that. Big fan of hers, of course. Penny R. Close 1, where are all the busloads of pro-life Christians and politicians to march at the Capitol to defend babies in Gaza? Good question. Ken Taxican, everything you guys said, IRT Haitian immigrants and refugees is backed up by my connection with Operations Sea Signal and operations thereafter. Been there, done that, got the t-shirt. Thank you, Ken Taxican. When the Vietnamese folk began showing up in my hometown post-Vietnam conflict, same BS about dogs disappearing and walking your dog. A lot of happy horse shit. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, rumors like that. Russell talked about rumors like that. In Flushing, Queens. Rumors like that happen in the islands themselves. The guy who officiated our wedding, he's from Trinidad. And there was one episode that my wife was telling me about that he told her because they used to work together at Barnes & Noble about how, like in the islands, when a pet disappears every once in a while, they'll suspect a neighbor or something like that.
Right.
Like that's not unheard of. It's a fairly common thing. Even in these other countries, it's fairly common to be like, But the idea, I mean, again, obviously, the idea that this is a problem in the community when there are so many real problems in the community that you could be highlighting, just absolutely beyond the pale fucking insane.
Yeah, when Asians started to move into Flushing, everyone said they were taking the ducks off the lake.
Right.
And the cats were disappearing. They were not fucking disappearing. The ducks were there on the lake.
The ducks are still there.
How would you know that?
Was there a registry of
You're
ducks
counting
in
them?
the neighborhood?
Yeah, exactly.
Ken Texican, I endorse every word of Keaton endorsing every word of this specific tweet by Kim Iverson. IRT Trump stupidity. Thank you very much. Dancing bear on a unicycle and no organ grinder. What an image. And the reality is he's one of the top candidates for greatest nation in history. Just disgusting what we have become. Amen. Sparky, I apparently mistook your rattlesnake tweet for an old one. All right, so I screenshotted the other one on my phone. Recent encounter reminded me of why the Cana break was chosen for that flag. Diamondback rattlesnakes will strike if you're near, or the cane break was cool with me as long as I was cool with it. Okay, thank you, Sparky. And then you reminded me, no, you didn't read that one before. It was an additional one about the snake. Sometimes super chats can be separate but concern the same subject. Thank you, Sparky. You're correct about that. I will take that into account next time. Kuznetsky Bassane, thanks for the $9.99. Appreciate the super sticker. EO8, thanks for the $4.99. Says, love you guys. Even if passe, you should do the Breakfast Club spot as it can't be done enough. Jill Stein is the only candidate that's anti-genocide, etc. Thank you for that. Amadeus, thanks for the $5. How do liberals and conservatives expect to win the AI race when they cannot even pass the Turing test? Thank you, Amadeus. Gavin Hillick says, where's Gavin Hillick? There they go. Thanks for the €5. Russ, might like the recent Irish school book Scandal. It contrasts a bigoted, backward, traditional Irish family with a cool, diverse family. It's peak DEI. Thanks, Gavin.
Oh, God.
So that's called, what is it called?
Why do you hate me?
Scandal.
Why do you hate
There
me
you
like
go.
that?
David Santucci, thanks for the $20. Don't forget Ashley Babbitt, January 6th protester, yes, voted for Obama twice. There you go. Thank you, David. Amadeus, thanks for the $10. Russ, your time machine worked, Keaton. I went back in time and killed him. Keaton, oh my God, who? Russ, Hitler, of course. Keaton, so sounds like a made-up name, Russ. Who did you really kill? Carla Harrington, thanks for the $50. Just sending some love. Keep up the great work, gentlemen. Well, thank you. That's very generous. Let's have a cowbell for Carla Harrington for $50. That's very kind of you. Appreciate that. Thank you all very much for being here tonight. Thank you all for joining. We got 1,800 strong in the Rumble chat, 1,700 strong in the YouTube chat. You could start making your way over to Rumble if you want to hang out for the Q&A. That's dudissidents.com/Rumble. Takes you over to this current live stream. SB, thanks for the $5, says, sorry, but making fun of corporate attempts of diversity is nothing new. The Boys is literally the mockery DEI in all but name with AOC parody. Do you watch The Boys?
I do watch The Boys.
I don't watch it.
One, that's fiction. This is more Borat, so it's really not the same thing.
Right. It's like, right.
Two, as has often been observed, The Boys over time disappeared up its own ass and ended up becoming the thing it was originally satirizing. So it got off to a good start, but it didn't. It's not in a good place now.
Not stick the landing. Sparky, thanks for the $5. U.S. has been actively screwing Haiti, at least since your boy Woodrow Wilson was president. Thank you. David Santucci, thanks for the $10. I don't feel safe in the stores anymore, but it's not a race issue. Right. Well, yeah, I caught that too. Well, you notice he caught himself after he said that. He said, in most cases, it's not a race issue. But yeah, among the concerns was I don't feel safe in the store. Yes. No, I did catch that. And thank you for pointing that out. Sparky, thanks for the $5. If you guys knew the extent of the evil that the CIA has been behind around the world and lately, even in the U.S., you'd be ashamed of your country. I mean, I'm ashamed of my country anyway. Yeah, I was born ashamed of my country.
He doesn't need any more encouragement.
Yeah. I was born ashamed of my country. But I believe you, Sparky. MZFC, thanks to the $9.99. Not voting for Trump nor Harris, but Harris will win. Trump, carnival barker. Harris, neoliberal cronyism. Incrementalism at best. Yep.
Let's all just get drunk.
Yeah, let's all just get wasted.
Get drunk.
That's right. David Sand, that's going to be a hell of an election night, man. That is going to be... Wow. What an event.
I don't drink, but I will drink for that stream.
Oh yeah. I mean, what an event. Need it. Oh yeah, of course. That's going to be epic. David Santucci, thanks for the $10. Agree with Russ. As a campaigner, Trump without Bannon is kind of like Paul McCartney without John Lennon. Agreed. Yes, good analogy.
Oh, worse. He could still ride a hook.
Yeah, that's true. Worse. Yeah, I would say. Right. Like it's almost yeah. Can't think of an analogy now, but worse. Buster Peak, thanks to the $5. He has to overcome the rigging with bigger margins. I don't think he could do that without Steve Bannon. Good time to be a third-party candidate. Brad Gilbert is calling Zionists Zionazis racists. No. Quintessential, thanks for the $10 on the Kyle adjacent people. Of the Kyle adjacent people, is Sheridan the best? You know, he has that new book out that I would like to actually read, the Flint book, because he's the only guy who's really done it to my knowledge. So I would be curious to read that for sure. Let's see here. Okay. Penny Coast, the U.S. has pushed rumors of Barbecue the Cannibal to justify sending Kenyan police to occupy Haiti. That's right. But what have Trump and Vance done for suffering East Palestine, Ohio residents? Yep, good point. Good point. And to confirm, as an Appalachian American, I've eaten squirrel, rabbit, frog legs, turtle, etc. Wow, you could be RFK's personal chef there, Ken Texican.
You could.
Yeah.
Should apply for a job with him.
Yeah. Disappearing cats and dogs and alleged Haitian delicacies indeed makes Trump and company look weird. Indeed. Yep. Candace Strike, just in from New York Times. Trump assassination suspect said online he was willing to fight and die in Ukraine, and New York Times interviewed him for 2023 article about Americans volunteering to aid war effort in Ukraine. Yeah, we're going to look into that in just a moment, Candace Strike.
Yeah. We got a tweet from Jimmy on that.
Okay. Yeah, we'll check that out on the break. The new Trump assassin guy seems like he's on the same Ukrainian bent as the would-be assassin of the Prime Minister of Slovenia. Ah, there we go. Okay. Sparky, thanks for the $5. So you switched over already, Sparky. I'd much rather have Haitian migrants in the U.S. than a deluge of Ukrainian Nazi refugees flooding the U.S. promoting their Nazi shit. Thank you, Sparky. Appreciate that very much. All righty, folks.
All right. So speaking of Nazis, so my little film thing, I made this a few years ago. It still holds up. You might know You might know the downfall meme from the German film of Hitler in the bunker, and everyone did Hitler ranting about different things. So I did one of him ranting about the gentrification of New York. So after the customary "let's all go to the lobby," that will start. Obviously, it has subtitles, but it's pretty funny. So enjoy.
Wait, so we're doing that after the "let's all go to the lobby" or instead of it "let's all go to the lobby"?
No, it's part of the whole thing. The "let's all go to the lobby" will be there, and then that'll drop in.
Okay, so it's just one video.
Oh, it's one video.
I don't have to play two things. Okay,
oh, no.
All right, cool. So, yep. In total, it's about 5 minutes. So, folks, while we're on the intermission, if you're already on our Rumble page, you are in the right place. Everybody else got to make that switch over there. DoDissidents.com/Rumble. That's the link that takes you to this stream. If you're a patron, a paid local, or even if you're not a paid member, if you're on any of our newsletters, Patreon, Locals, or Substack, we're we're linking to the Rumble stream in that email. So the link to the Rumble stream is there. So go click that if you're still watching on YouTube, and we'll see you after this break. The break is 5 minutes. Phone lines are open. So patrons, locals, and Substack members, call in if you like, and we'll see you in 5 minutes. Everybody else, we will see you Tuesday, 2 p.m. Eastern on the main channel. Oh, wait, we forgot. We have to plug this. Post-Duopoly show tomorrow, 8 p.m. on RBN. Post-Duopoly reunion. Shit, we should have plugged that earlier. Well, we'll tweet it out. Yeah, RBN Post-Duopoly tomorrow, 8 o'clock. That's going to be a fun one. Haven't done that one in a while, so looking forward to that. Thank you guys very much for being here. We will see you in 5 minutes over on Rumble for the Q&A and an update on the shooting. We'll check in. We'll look into that. Enjoy Russell's. It is hilarious. You guys will love it. It was super well done. So enjoy this intermission, and we'll see you on the other side. Until then, be safe and be well.
Courage!
Please clap.